Good evening. Welcome to the December 21st Board of Selectmen meeting. We're here for the special town meeting warrant, but before we start, we'll have a pledge of allegiance. Everybody can stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm John Martin. Charlie's voice is a little under the weather, so I am going to read the warrants, and then we can have some comments from folks as we go along.
This is being recorded.
And yes, this is being recorded, and there's a live feed. Thank you, Charlie. Okay, there's a lot of warrants, 39 to be exact. If you have a copy, December 21st copy is the current one, because there was a couple of changes that were made. There was some at the podium here. I don't know if there's any left. Is there any left there? No. Okay, so why don't we get right into it?
We're going to do the licenses first, Mr. Chair?
I don't see any.
We have one additional
Oh, I see. Okay,
election.
sorry.
Yeah.
We have a license permit for Harley Davidson of Southampton. Okay, there's two licenses, MVI and ENT. What does that stand for, Bob?
Must be entertainment. Say one.
ENT is entertainment?
Yes.
MVI is motor vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have those?
I do. I have it here to approve.
Okay, the first one is the new dealer, or new car dealer's license, Class 1. And the second is the entertainment license. Is there any past due taxes or anything due, or
Yes.
which one?
Very small amount, and we did notify the individual that the license would be contingent upon paying $80 in back taxes.
$80 in back taxes?
Also, the other would the used car license petitioner had insurance expiring on 1/1/18, and we said your new license will be contingent upon renewal of your insurance.
Okay, so it looks like on the new car dealer's license, we need a motion to approve pending the new insurance certificate due 1/1/18. So let's start with that one. Is there a motion on that?
So moved.
Second?
Any conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous? And on the entertainment license, we need a motion to approve pending the back, was it taxes, Bob, of approximately $80?
Just a few dollars.
Okay, so we need a motion pending the payment of the taxes. Okay. Have
So
that
moved.
motion?
Second.
Any conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Approved, unanimous? Let's just sign this and get it done with. Nothing else on here. Okay, now we can get to the warrant.
There's one other appointment
What are
of
we
the
saying now?
additional election,
No, that's already been done.
the reappointment of election officers. There's a new one, Eileen Hamel.
Right, that's already been done, correct?
Correct.
Eileen Hamel?
At the very end of the day, Janine came and said, "Can you add Eileen Hamel?" I'm not sure she was aware that I did, but
Oh,
I did add that person to the agenda that I printed around 5:30 for the board. I don't think the others had an agenda with that name on it, so you have already approved.
Okay, thanks.
So we're all set on that?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else before we get going? No? Okay, start with the reading. Article 1, I hope you folks are going to share with some of this reading. It's all going to be up here on the overhead. Okay, Article 1. Let's see how we're going to do this. Do I need to read this, probably for the folks at home?
How about
Is
just
this
the
posted?
highlighted, the area in
Yeah,
the dark,
yeah.
maybe?
I'll do the highlights, and if anybody has any questions on it, we'll read the rest of it. It's the Amendment 1, amend town bylaws, elections and annual town meeting. The annual election of town officers shall be held on the third Tuesday in May of each year. The annual meeting of the town shall be held on the first Tuesday in May, commencing at 7 p.m. in the evening. If not completed in a reasonable time prescribed by the moderator, shall continue on successive evenings, beginning at 7 p.m. until its conclusion, excluding Sundays and holidays.
Just one thing, for those who are looking, new language for the bylaw is in boldface. So any boldface is new language.
Any comments, Mr. Moderator, anything that, no? So, do we want to go through here one at a time, or just at the end? I would say at the end if we can. What do you got?
Unless there's something somebody wants to pull as an article.
Right, then we can
I would
pull
just
it.
continue, if somebody wants to pull, just give me a number and I'll write it down, we'll go back to
Okay.
it.
So let's do it by exception and pull anything that we might want to.
Okay.
Okay. Article 2, amend town bylaws, Article 17, Council on Aging Director. Section 4, the COA Director is hired by and ultimately responsible to the appointing authority, the Select Board. Select Board has the power to hire, evaluate, and/or terminate the Director, and may designate some or all of these functions to the Town Administrator. The Director has the responsibility for the hiring and supervision of paid staff and unpaid volunteers. Section 6, the COA Board serves as an advisory board.
My understanding, this is a recommendation to CO.
Yeah.
Yes, this came in from the Council of Aging Board. It's a change because basically the COA Board was doing all the hiring, and so now they'd like to have the director do that. And the hope is that also the director would be more involved in department head meetings, and even though it would report up to the Select Board, that there would be sort of more responsibility of the town administrator. We had a speaker at one of the COA board meetings, and it was from the Mass Council of Aging Boards, and they said that actually this is not an uncommon reporting structure. There is some question, though, about whether or not there was, I think there was a comment on one of the drafts that I saw that said there's a question whether or not this violates any Massachusetts general law. Do you know?
Yes, town council has said that Mass General Law
Can you use your mic?
provides,
You might,
Mass General Law provides that the COA Board hires the director. However, it also provides that towns may, by local bylaw, change that.
Okay,
So
so that's what they're
they
doing.
think that it will pass the attorney, they believe it'll pass the Attorney General's review.
Okay,
and the COA Board is okay with this?
it's their recommendation.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. Article 3, amend town bylaws, Finance Committee. Again, I'm just going to read what's in bold here. Members of the Finance Committee may not be elected to any other town board, committee, commission, or ad hoc committee. Finance Committee members may serve as liaisons to other committees, boards, commissions, and/or ad hoc committees as needed to maintain communication and coordination between those bodies and the Finance Committee. Finance Committee members may serve on appointed committees, commissions, boards, or ad hoc committees with voting rights unless otherwise stipulated in the town's bylaws. That was Section 1. Section 3 says the Finance Committee shall consider all articles in any warrant thereafter issued for any town meeting, annual or special, calling for the expenditures and/or transfer of money, and report in writing or otherwise to the town meeting its recommendations as deemed in the best interest. What is crossed out? Is that a change, Bob, what's crossed out?
Crossed out means, yes, it's going to be
So this is what's being deleted. What's being deleted is no appropriation and/or transfer of money shall be made under the report of a committee or an individual until a matter has been considered and reporting upon by the Finance Committee.
comment from town council on that. town council believes that conditioning elections is in violation of state statute. And so to prohibit members of the Finance Committee from running for another elected office because they are members of the Finance Committee will probably not pass muster with the Attorney General. And it is recommended that they take that out. In general, across the board, anytime you want to restrict who can be elected or put conditions on elections other than you must be eligible to vote and be registered to vote and so forth, other than those very fundamental and basic conditions, the Commonwealth does not allow those kinds of conditioning or restrictions.
So are you saying the changes where they may
I'm
not
saying
be
it would be,
elected?
in order to be assured that the Attorney General will permit this, removing that first bold sentence there, members of the FinCom may not be elected to any other town board, committee, commission, or ad hoc committee. If you remove that sentence, then I don't think there's, and town council doesn't think, that you're going to have difficulty with the Attorney General.
And this will be a big change to the way we do things now, so.
Right. From current bylaws.
So we have this in here now, so we need, I guess before we take it out, Mike, you have some questions? or
I
comments?
just want to,
Yeah,
so
can you
the,
identify yourself?
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Finance Committee Chair. So we agree with the whole, the premise of the article, we put it forward. I don't remember if we put the language forward in this sentence, or I honestly don't recall. But should there still be language precluding us from participating concurrently on two elected committees? Because the point was that the Finance Committee members are only Finance Committee members. If you take this out, does it remove,
Well, it's going to mean that Finance Committee member can be elected to another committee,
but does it also mean that you can serve on both?
to any other, yeah, I mean, the way I'm reading it,
Presumably,
you can
yes.
go on multiple. yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't preclude it. Now it's
Whereas-
precluded the way we have it now.
This article precludes you from running for another elective office. We can.
No, I know that. I know
Ordinance
you-
can control, bylaw can control appointments to other committees and so forth, but they can't restrict your right to run for any other office you choose.
But can they restrict your ability to serve concurrently on two separately elected boards, right? Because that was something
interesting question.
we've been
I-
in agreement with, that the Finance Committee should be separate, shouldn't be on the Board of Assessors and the Select Board and the other groups. I
Except
don't,
as a liaison.
yeah, exactly, in those situations. I don't know if anyone has an intention to run for more than two boards, but I think we've operated a certain way with only serving on one, and we feel it works well, so.
Yeah, this
Oh,
is,
it's a good idea, but what the Attorney General will agree to is another matter, and
Okay.
this sentence conditions elections.
so are you 100% that the AG's office would strike this down?
Well, I can only tell you what town council has said, and that's their feeling, so.
So it's a matter of, do we want to test it or not?
I mean, I'm fine with striking the sentence, personally, striking the sentence and moving forward with it, so we are able to serve as the liaison, but I feel it should be circled back in case we need to add the language, or if there's similar towns with similar language like that.
Since we have language in our current bylaw that says you cannot, why don't we just remove the word not? This way we're very clear that you could, right? If you just take the word not out.
Right, but I guess the question is, what happens when that happens? So you got Finance Committee on multiple committees.
But it's the law.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
yes and
we
no.
believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can read you the note that was sent by town council. So it's not as cut and dried as you might think. She says, I note that it is possible that the Attorney General may find that this restriction on the holding of other elective rather than appointive office to be in conflict with state law.
Then I would remove the sentence.
It's possible, so, you know,
Well, yeah,
I mean, yeah.
I don't think she would be bold enough to say this is what the Attorney General, They just won't, that's not the way lawyers
But the,
advise
yeah,
us.
the
you know?
language leans towards serving on 2 boards
Yes.
versus elected, that exact
Right.
sentence. So I would make a recommendation to strike that sentence for now. We don't want to lose the opportunity to serve on the ad hoc committee, so we don't want the bylaw change to stop.
Yeah, I think with the sentence in or out, you're not going to lose that. It's just a matter of
Right.
elected. So we need some kind of motion, I would think, from the board here, how you want to do
I'll
this.
make a motion to strike the sentence, members of the Finance Committee may not be elected to any other town board, committee, commission, or ad hoc committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I think it's the right thing to do.
Yep. Okay,
Bob, then just to change.
yep.
I made the change.
And I'm noting it here. And when we accept them later on, we'll accept it with a change.
Yep.
Okay. Article 4, town budget process. Yes. It's got a lot to read here. Okay. A, the select board determines budget priorities after consultation with the finance team, excuse me, which is made up of town administrator, finance committee member, town accountant, treasurer, and principal assessor. B, on or about December 1, the town administrator forwards to all departments and committees the select board's budget priorities, set of guidelines for budget preparation, and schedule for all departments and committees to meet with the town administrator, finance committee, and the town accountant. C, on or about January 15th, based on the select board's budget priorities and following the guidelines established by the town administrator, departments and committees compile their budget proposal, meet with the town administrator, finance committee, and the town accountant to discuss their proposal, and afterwards send their final proposal to the town administrator. D, on or about February 15th, after consulting with departments, committees as appropriate, the town administrator sends a draft budget to the select board and the finance committee. E, on or about March 1st, the select board and finance committee meet to discuss the administrator's draft budget. F, the select board reviews the draft budget and after consultation with departments, committees as appropriate, adopts or modifies the budget process, modifies the draft budget to create the select board budget. G, on or about March 15th, the select board sends their budget to finance committee. H, on or about April 1st, the finance committee sends finance committee's budget recommendations to the select board. I, on or about April 15th, the select board and finance committee meet to discuss their respective positions, make revisions, and share their respective revised drafts. Should there be further changes to these drafts, the select board and finance committee must meet to discuss the changes. J, 1 week prior to the annual town meeting, the select board's final budget and finance committee's final budget recommendation for each line item of the select board's final budget shall be posted on the town's website and shall be available at town hall. And K, it is understood that only in new extreme circumstances will non-posted budget recommendations or changes be introduced at town meeting by an individual representing the select board or by an individual representing the finance committee.
I thought we voted to strike that K.
I don't know, we voted to strike it, but it was.
I don't think you voted.
Don't think so?
Discussed.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about it.
John, the budget document that we have set up, the line item budget document, has 3 columns at the very right-hand side of the page. So you have your line items for each department. One column will be budget of the selectmen. The second column will be recommendations of the finance committee. So presumably, there will be fewer line items in that recommendation, unless they challenge every single line item. There would be just here, 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 where they disagree. And the third column will be the budget adopted by the town meeting, the final budget, so.
Okay, so it shows it clearly? Yes, sir.
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Finance Committee. With the separate columns, would the budget then be voted by group, and then line items would be voted separately?
It's probably up to
For
the moderator
differences?
how to proceed on that.
Mr. Moderator.
Robert Floyd, 15 East Street. It's been my practice to divide the questions, so we vote on each group. If someone has a question on a line item, then we discuss that line item. Hearing no discussion on line items, we vote on each group. When we're through voting on the groups, we have no need then to vote on the entire budget.
So if, in this case, in a group, you see a particular line, the board has this number and the finance is recommending this, then that would be open to discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Another question?
So a follow-up with that, item J, 1 week prior, posting of the budget, the 3-column budget. This upcoming annual town meeting, we're intending to put out a sort of written document accompanying that. So basically, Finance Committee's final determination, there will be a written document accompanying the budget when it's posted, with our recommendations.
So with an explanation of why you recommend something different, say?
Right.
Okay.
And part of the reason for that is to alleviate some of the concern in item K, because
In item
on
what?
an item K
Okay.
of the budget process, because to be honest, we are not in favor of that item. We feel it limits the Select Board and the Finance Committee's ability to address things that may come up, to address items on the town meeting floor. And it also, one, it's only inclusive to the Select Board, the Finance Committee. It doesn't necessarily include anyone else at town meeting, which can be detrimental, right? Anyone could walk up and strike and then make a new motion. We just feel like K limits our ability to act as town meeting participants, because we are elected members of the Finance Committee, you are elected members of the Select Board, and while we act as town meeting members on the floor, when we get up and speak at the microphone, there's a perception that we are a Select Board member or a Finance Committee member. In this, to me, I think it's very muddy when someone could get up to change a motion and they're on the Select Board, and then someone goes back, well, the budget process says you can't do that, or similar to the Finance
Oh,
Committee,
it says you can, just in rare,
Right.
extreme, in new cases.
which are all definition-based, and
I know,
everyone has
that's-
different definitions,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
So it just gets muddier. So we would recommend striking item K.
Yeah, I mean, you can go up as an individual and say, I'm John Martin, speaking as an individual resident. Yeah. Velda, is there anything you wanted to add to that? Because I know you were heavily involved.
Well, I guess the bylaws committee respectfully disagrees with the finance
Can you
committee.
Can you identify yourself? for-
Oh, I'm sorry, Velda Goldberg, 26 Caitlin Way, Chair of the bylaws committee. We feel strongly about having something in the bylaws that emphasizes collaboration and communication ahead of time, so that what the voters are voting upon in terms of the budget, they've had ample time to look at it and to evaluate it, so that the things that are posted a week before, that really should be your best estimate of what the budget should be and Finance Committee's best estimate of their recommendations. What we're trying to prevent is last-minute changes for things that, you know, you would have had ample time to discuss, because you're asking people to vote on these things. And if things are presented at the last minute, that's difficult for people to understand. This doesn't, it doesn't prevent an individual from getting up and making a motion. That has to be the case. And it doesn't prevent individual members, but to have a whole committee, either Select Board or Finance Committee, because you folks are the ones that are creating the budget together, introduce a totally new budget at the last minute, doesn't seem like it's really fair to the voters.
And according to this, the last minute would be less than 1 week.
Less than 1 week. And of course, it says that we understand that, you know, something could be left out of the budget, or there could be some extraordinary circumstance that you have to change. And that's why it's written that way, so that it gives wiggle room. But that's our opinion.
Thank you.
Dan Pellegrini, 76 Crooked Ledge Road, member of the Finance Committee. Two points to this discussion. To the statements just made, I think G through J covers a transparent process with a lot of transparency to the public there, so absolutely agree, and I think that's what this is accomplishing. To the second point on the select board and the finance committee's surprising at the end, I thought, if I remember a select board meeting, Charlie, I thought you said there's a state law that prohibits a committee from doing it, and we were actually in question as to whether what happened at the last town meeting was legitimate or not. So, with that said, if that's the case, there's absolutely no reason for K, because it's just redundant to what the state law is that was recited. I believe you came up and talked about that too. So, is that not the case? Is there not a state law out there that prohibits?
Did that have to do with whether the person was a committee member versus an individual resident?
Yeah, I thought it was a committee could not, and that's what we're saying right here. We're basically saying a committee cannot, and the state law already says we can't do it, so why are we?
Well, this was reinforcement.
You can't stand up there and say, I'm chairman of the select board, and therefore I move to do this, because if that's the case, you're not an individual at town meeting.
Correct. So I,
Well, one of the issues that happened last time is when we got a reading from the AG's office, because we had already progressed through the meeting and the meeting closed, it was okay. This would prevent that from happening.
but is there a law to it? I mean,
Well,
is this?
technically, yeah, legally you can't do it, like the AG's office told us, but because we accepted it, we closed the meeting,
Understand.
she says you can't go back.
So we are really protected without this. This is just,
Yeah,
May I say,
you may.
as I understand this, what we're doing tonight is basically putting this in front of the voters to make a decision. This isn't a decision that, and there's going to always be those debates. What the real question in my mind is this warranted enough to go in front of the voters for a discussion, or do we want to make a decision here and move forward that way?
I mean, I would beg to differ on that, just because this is our process, right? So whatever goes in front of the people should be what we agree on. I don't think whether K stays or doesn't stay, the determination needs to be made tonight and not left for the town meeting floor to decide, because this is our process, right?
Determination needs to be made whether we want to keep it in or not,
Right, tonight,
for the town meeting.
before we go forward. This budget process is going before the town meeting, but it is our drafted process to work with.
If it stays in, it's our recommendation that it stays in.
Correct.
That's how this works, so.
Now, if you want to get to that, I don't believe it needs to stay in,
Why is that?
because I believe that we have enough safeguards in the rest of it to get to the desired results that we want.
I guess my only comment is that safeguards didn't work last time.
We weren't educated to those safeguards.
Right. But the moderator can change and,
Moderator's not going to change.
you know what I'm saying, yeah. Go ahead.
Question. I can't weigh in one way or other, but a question. By definition, anything that is new is less than a week old. So any comment, any motion, it would be new, because it's before that 1 week.
So between J and K, you're saying?
It appears to
period.
negate, yeah.
Okay.
So it is understood only in new, every motion would be new if it wasn't discussed before that week, even a minutia.
With non-posted budget recommendations, you're
Yeah.
saying, yeah.
Anything
But
that.
only by the two
Yeah.
boards.
Yeah,
Right.
yes, okay.
Well, this was added because of problems last year, and that the two committees maybe didn't work as well together as people had hoped that they would. And that's why there are guidelines, even G, H, I, and J are all guidelines. Is it going to be exactly by the 15th or the 1st, whatever? So the hope is that it would go smoother this time, and it would certainly look better if we were on the same page with this now than to be arguing about whether we're going to collaborate come the end of the budget process. So I'm perfectly happy with it not being in there. I don't want to go against the bylaws committee, but it doesn't look good that we're debating whether or not we're going to collaborate.
Well, is it all right? Sure. The bylaws committee was a little afraid that you might reject this, so we have an alternative proposal.
So
that
we haven't rejected it yet, but
But may I suggest, this is, it would probably do what we're trying to accomplish, but would be a little less,
so, go ahead. You're going to pass them out? Go ahead.
is that okay?
Yeah.
So what we would, if you want to eliminate the number 9 and 10 were according to our original one, so it's your J and K. So if you want to eliminate K, we suggest moving language to the beginning of J so that people understand the purpose of the posting a week before. So we're suggesting that you add a little language there that says, to provide voters with ample time to review all budget-related items prior to consideration at town meeting, to mandate early, timely budget deliberations, to reinforce collaboration and communication, and to discourage budget-related items being introduced at town meeting without ample opportunity for all stakeholders to consider the implications. 1 week prior to the annual town meeting, the Select Board's final budget and Finance Committee's final budget recommendation for each line item of the Select Board's final budget shall be posted on the town's website and shall be available at Town Hall.
Okay, so that puts the intent there, but doesn't limit it.
It puts the intent, but it doesn't mandate it, and it gives rationale for why this should be early and why last-minute things shouldn't come up if possible.
It's also voter-centric instead of committee-centric.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sounds-
that,
Okay, anybody want to comment on that before we say anything?
Got to read it.
Vicki Morrow, Pomeroy Meadow Road Town Accountant. So I've been through 6 budget cycles since I've been here. And this was the only instance in all those 6 that there was a discrepancy between what the Select Board wanted and what the Finance Committee wanted. We didn't go over the budget line by line this last budget process like we did all the other 5. So you're putting K up here because of one instance, and at least in my 6 years that I've been here, because of one instance where people didn't quite work at it. All the other 5 times, there was not really an issue. So it just seems kind of extreme for that one instance out of those budgets that we've had throughout the process of our town that happened. Not to say that it wouldn't happen again, but you're doing this thing for one instance that happened. Just a comment.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
What do you think of this, Ed? The new town administrator that'll be working with this, what's your
You
thoughts?
have to go up to the podium and introduce
I
yourself.
think it'd be, like to hear from you.
So you're officially responding, Ed.
Ed Gibson, 1185 Westfield Street, West Springfield, Mass. I wasn't here to see what went on. If it hasn't been continuing or reoccurring, I'm pretty much the type of person that believes that people will come together in the middle. You might have some disagreements, but unless you've had some extreme issues, I probably don't see the necessary for that last piece. If you wanted to put the amendment in the beginning, I think it's a nice middle-of-the-road type of statement that kind of sets it out that, yeah, we're all going to work together and try to make this work. And yes, this board and that board may have some disagreements here and there, but I think we can work most of them out.
Can I ask a question? Is this statement here replacing J, did you say?
Yeah, J
Is that
and
your
K.
recommendation? That it would replace what's currently up there for J?
And 9 would be the new J, is what you think
it
you're...
just adds language at the beginning of J,
Yeah.
So you would still
and then
keep what...
eliminates K.
No. Actually, in here, Velda, the beginning would be added to the beginning of J, and you also repeated J at the bottom
Right,
of this
right.
paragraph.
They're leaving J, just adding the underlined above it.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that the new J is what she gave us on the new article, and
Correct.
we'll replace the old J and K.
Yeah, this would, what I handed out to you, that would replace the J that's up there,
And the K.
assuming that you're eliminating K.
Correct, right. Yeah.
Is the finance committee comfortable with that?
I would say yes.
Okay. I'll make a okay. Other than it's a long sentence, I'd make a nomination to, or,
I was just going to say, I think
Got more
it's,
questions, yeah?
okay, sorry, Joe.
I think it addresses some of the concerns. It removes the singling of the select board and the finance committee from K, which I think was one of the bigger holdups for us. So the language as is, I think, is fine for, replacing and modifying J and K.
Just a question, is the finance committee in session here?
We are in session.
Okay, so if you had to take votes and everything, you're all set.
Yeah, we're not intending to vote tonight, just
But if you needed to.
because
you're
of
all
what's
set.
going on, but if we had to, we can.
Charlie?
I move that we strike K.
Just strike K?
That's what I said.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, so discussion here. So you're saying you're not interested in putting the new paragraph in, just strike K?
This is a two-part thing. The first thing you do is strike the one that you're certain that you want removed. That's K. Then we can go into discussion relative to J.
Yeah, so I personally would strike J and K and replace it with this J, but what's your comments?
I agree with John. So
Okay.
it's the same result probably both ways.
Yeah. So with that, we got to take a vote, and if we split the vote, we'll redo it, so.
I don't care which way we do
All in
it.
favor of Charlie's motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it doesn't carry.
Oh,
Split.
I wasn't
Well, I'll
clear.
try it. I'll make a motion that we substitute J and K with number 9 on the new sheet that was passed out.
That Velda
I'll
brought
second
forward.
that.
Okay, so discussion on that?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Could I just ask, in the video recording, is this being broadcasted? Because I got a text saying it wasn't being broadcasted.
Yes,
It is?
yes, it wasn't right at the beginning because it was scheduled wrong, but it should be now.
Okay.
So do they want me to reread Article 4 for them?
We'll vote on that, right?
Okay, so,
As of 6:29, it was not being broadcast.
Really?
Now, 6:37.
so it's being broadcast now? Do you know when the
It wasn't
broadcast started?
as of 10 minutes ago.
6:29, that was the last I heard, it was not being broadcast.
We are to look now. We should be.
Okay.
Should be. Can somebody,
You want to send a text back and see
somebody
if,
send a text out to be sure?
Yeah, I'll try.
I don't want to reread this stuff if we don't have to. Thank you, Velda. Appreciate that. If there's anybody home seeing this, text one of us, let us know. If you can't see us, let us know that too. Okay, I want to start with Article 5.
So did you vote on Article 4?
We did.
Just to make the change.
We voted to eliminate J and K and to replace it with Article number 9 that Velda brought up. Okay. Article 5, vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 110A. To see if the town will vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 110A, that any public office of the town may remain closed on any or all Saturdays, and where the last day for performance of any act in any such office falls on a Saturday when said office is closed, the act shall be performed on the next succeeding business day, or take any action relative. We're not open on Saturdays anyways. Is there a reason for this on here?
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping? Okay.
Requested by the clerk.
Okay, assuming there's no questions on this. Article 6, bylaw amendment, Article 14. To see if the town will vote to delete in its entirety Article 14? Yeah. 14 of the general bylaws of the town of Southampton and replace it with the following Article 14.
That's a long one. Long.
Oh, this, yeah, we're not going to read this.
No.
Yes.
I have serious reservations relative to this and would request that this be taken out of the warrant for this year, or for this town meeting.
Could you explain your reservations?
Conversations I've had indirectly with town attorney is that there's questions relative to federal and state laws that it might conflict with. I don't have anything that's specific right now, but there's a lot of stuff going on at the federal level. I think to keep the town safe, we're better off not enacting anything at this point.
Who was the sponsor of this article?
It started with the police department. And it started about a year ago because of certain canvassing issues that have been occurring. But there's a lot of different companies that have rights to do this. And just not comfortable, this thing's what, 4 pages long?
Right.
You know,
Town council thinks this is a can of worms.
Yeah, I also had,
You've got court decisions that restrict, that control what communities can do on this as well, and thinks that it's going to be more trouble than worth.
I had actually had a lot of questions that I sent back when this first came to us, and a lot of the, like, which is a religious organization, what do you consider political canvassing, you know, kids selling things. I don't think it's really clear. So even if we wait until the annual town meeting, I'm comfortable with tabling this for now, too. I'll make a motion that we remove from the warrant Article 6.
Second.
Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
Save 2 pages of paper.
Yeah, saving trees.
Okay, on to page 12, Article 7. To see if the town will vote to accept Woodmar Lane as a public way as shown on a plan entitled blank, prepared for blank, and recorded in the Hampshire County Registry of Deeds, book blank, page blank, or take any other action relative thereto. I'm going to assume that we're going to fill in the blanks before
Yes,
town meeting.
this is being recorded, and the information will come in probably next business day, and I'll just add it in here.
So has this been accepted by, what, planning?
Planning board has accepted
Planning
this,
board
yes,
has, and-
is actually proposing this.
Yep.
This
And
is-
the highway department was good with it.
Okay. We need a motion? No, we don't. No, you're right. I need to go on. Article 8, zone change on Middle Road, Sattler Store. To see if the town will vote to amend the zoning of 155 Middle Road, Plan Book 79, page 82, Deed Book 7705, page 352, from residential village to commercial village, or take any action relative thereto. Who is sponsoring this?
That planning board sent that forward.
Can you speak to it, Jim?
Well, this is, on Middle Road, there was Sattler's Package Store that's been there for as long as I can remember. And they were zoned, let me see here, was it residential village, but they were grandfathered because they were in existence prior to the zoning laws being put in place in town. When Sattler's closed, if they are closed for more than 2 years, it reverts back from their grandfather status to residential village. There is a new owner that wanted to run a little woodworking shop and sell some items out front. She bought the building. They went to zoning board. The zoning board was not allowed to approve their variance because it wasn't in the bylaws, it wasn't something they could do. So they rejected them, and now she was at a loss, so she came to the planning board. That's what she was instructed to do. That was her last option to do, short of having to take the building down, and I don't even think she can build a house on it because I believe the square footage is different for the 2 zonings, commercial versus residential village. So she's in a real pickle here, so this was really the only shot. We said the planning board held a public hearing and decided to put forward to the town to see if the town wants to rezone it.
So none of the abutters had issues, or?
There was a couple negatives and a bunch of positives, so we decided to let the townspeople make the decision. So
Sounded
that's,
to me like it was someone who was somewhat caught in a catch-22 situation, also had some personal hardship, and they have somebody who's willing to do it. There was some concerns about spot zoning, that was discouraged, I think, from council, but I still think the voters should vote on it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't like to encourage spot zoning in town, but in this case, because it was there forever, and to keep that use going, we thought we'd let the town make the decision.
It'll be interesting. No comments? Okay.
Have any que-
Thanks. Article 9, temporary.
John,
Hold on.
sorry,
Yes.
one question, just, so this is to permanently change the zoning?
Correct. For
Just
that,
for that property?
that property, correct.
So there's no variance or anything?
Not allowed.
Not allowed?
It's not permitted,
Reverted.
correct.
Oh, just, okay.
In the ZBA, I was at the ZBA meeting for another issue, and I happened to be there for this, and they denied, and they were apologetic. We wish we could do something, but we can't, and it's not allowed, so this is the only option left, short of taking it down.
So the owner bought it not thinking one thing and it wasn't accurate, so didn't
Right.
check on it.
It's that 2-year, a lot of people don't understand that if a property is grandfathered and it ceases for 2 years, it reverts back to the original zoning.
Heather Pellegrini, 76 Crooked Ledge Road, and Finance Committee. I'm just wondering, I feel like in years past on the warrant, we saw who was supporting it or putting it forth. I'm wondering if we could get that added to the actual copy of the warrant, say who's sponsoring the articles.
So alongside.
I think it's helpful for voters to know this is a planning board thing or this is a capital committee thing.
Yes, this is the warrant that will be posted. In other words, this complies with the legal requirements. Those
Oh, I'm not
other,
concerned about that. I'm
I
just
know.
concerned of making sure voters know who's putting
When
forth
you get to
the...
town meeting, it's
when
gonna,
we get to town meeting, this is going to be expanded with explanations of each
Okay.
article,
Okay.
as well as the vote of
Okay.
the Finance Committee, as well as the vote of the Board of Selectmen.
Perfect.
And also the vote that's required for passage.
Okay,
you
thank
don't
you.
want to publish that part. Yeah.
I mean, it may be, it's obviously a new point now, but it may be required for us. It may be helpful for us in these meetings to have some of
Yeah.
that information too, because we just asked who sponsored it.
Yeah, that's why we're asking who sponsored, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there again, town council will always point out that every article is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen.
But we like to know who brings it up to us, yeah. Yeah.
So what I would typically do would put sponsored by the Board of Selectmen as requested by the Planning Board or something like that.
Okay, Article 9, temporary moratorium on recreational marijuana establishments. So see if the town will vote to amend the town bylaws to include a new Article 18, Section 1, to read as follows. The town hereby adopts a temporary moratorium on the use of land or structures for a recreational marijuana establishment and other related uses related to recreational marijuana. The moratorium shall be in effect through December 31st, 2018, or until such time as the town adopts zoning bylaw amendments that regulate recreational marijuana establishments, whichever comes earlier. During the moratorium period, the town shall undertake a planning process to address the potential impacts of recreational marijuana in the town and to consider the Cannabis Control Commission regulations regarding recreational marijuana establishments and shall consider adopting new zoning bylaws in response to these new issues. So it's a moratorium that pushes it out to December 18, yeah.
Right, we had the planning board met on this last night, we had our public hearing, and there was only four people present in the audience, and there was no negative comments made at that time for the moratorium, and we're going to try to rewrite or try to come up with a bylaw to help identify where and when and how many in town, and try to get that. We're going to try to get it to the town meeting in May, because if we don't, and we don't have a fall town meeting, then it will expire December 31st, 2018. So,
Francine Tishman, 83 Glendale Road. My only question here is, during this moratorium, will the town be looking at the economic impact of either for or against, so that we understand what are the implications financially for the town, since obviously on being on the finance committee, we're very concerned about the amount of revenue that comes in, but that's not the only thing. We understand all the other implications as well. And then the other question is, if at some future date, we decide, the town votes to decide to have an establishment, I guess I don't want to see us in the same situation as we're in with the bike path, and not having done it when it was initially offered, and now years later having so many more hurdles to go through. So just asking how we're going to study this, and what are the implications going forward.
It does say we'll undertake a planning process, but a committee has to be selected.
And just to tag on what Francine was saying, Dan Pellegrini here, if we are going to study it, we should budget for it right now. So it's not free. I don't think you guys have the time to go do the research and the study. So, if we're going to punt this down the road and say we're going to study, we better come up with the money, or the year's going to pass and we're just going to blow a year off and potentially lose revenue and the head start. So I think we seriously need to look at this. If we are going to go down this, take $5,000 to $10,000 and budget it, because it's going to be at a minimum, cost us $5,000, and then you might as well put another $5,000 to $10,000 on legal on top of that. So we're going to sit here and spend $20,000 to $30,000 to come up with our own bylaws to go on top of what the state has. My opinion, from a finance standpoint, I think
I don't think we're working with the Pioneer Valley Planning. The whole state is it's having to try to grasp this. It's the chair of the planning board has been going to some of the meetings that the Pioneer Valley Planning has, and they said it's a fluid. It's so hard to grasp, and things are changing daily. But I would imagine at some point they're going to give us some modeled bylaws that we can adopt and just tailor to the towns, what the town would like to see. It will be. I don't think it will be. I think it's going to be reasonable.
We can't have a conversation,
And just on the finances, would that come out of the planning board's budget? My understanding is you guys have a account that you have funds in. So again, I'm just concerned, and I'm all for it. If we're going to take the time to do it, we got to pay to do it.
I don't think the meeting that Paul went to on this subject, there was a fee. I'm pretty sure there wasn't. So they're helping all the communities. Everybody's in the same boat, trying to get through this. We just want to establish, if it's going to be 3, 5, 10, and then there's sites that will sell it. There's sites where you can use it on site, and then there's combination of maybe, I heard yoga with this. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different aspects to this. It's very complex, so we're trying to understand it, but we're using the Pioneer Valley Planning to work with us as well. So hopefully it will be a very small impact, if any.
I recognize this is boilerplate. What's the definition of related uses related? I don't think I've ever seen the same word before and
I
after.
don't know if we know those definitions
No,
yet, yeah.
All right, but somebody will answer it if somebody asks.
In the process, definitely. But I mean, Dan's right. Should we put a few dollars aside in the budget? I mean, that's something during the process with the finance team to definitely consider. You have a question?
Was this article not submitted by the Board of Health?
Board of Health was, Jerry was present at the meeting. And
The Board of Health is the one that submitted this to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, so they should put it in their budget then?
Well, I'm just saying, it seems like they're focusing on the planning, but
well, the planning board is the one that held the public hearing on this article and was.
they're initiated out of the Board of Health.
Okay.
But either way, somebody needs to take a little money and put it in their budget. I'm not sure who, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily.
I'm seeing this as nothing more than slow down a little bit here. Let's see what the candidacy board does in March, and then get together and put some decent bylaws together with the planning board for the next annual town meeting.
I appreciate being thoughtful about this, but I also think it's a little bit of not in my town. Easthampton already voted in favor of having 12 of them. I feel like, it's, to me, it's restricting free trade, business, whatever, to some degree. And I do think, I want the voters more to vote on it than anything. But I do worry that the state wasn't quite prepared for this, and there's a lot of scrambling, and a lot of police and public health people are against it, a lot of commerce people are for it, and I'd rather the voters of Southampton decide.
Which is,
John, if I comment,
go ahead.
there's no shortage of model bylaws coming out. Law firms are doing it, the Mass Municipal Association is doing it, and now the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. So my guess is that you won't have to spend much money. Just simply take the models that are coming out, ask questions about them, and piece together what seems to make sense for the town, assuming that they want to go forward with a bylaw.
And I guess the budget planning part doesn't need to be discussed tonight. That's something off to the side, so. Want a question on the budget or just in general?
I have a question on this
Sure, go ahead.
this topic. Heather Pellegrini, 76 Crooked Ledge Road. I'm just wondering if there's really a need to push it out a whole year, if there are these sort of, example bylaws already floating around. I mean, this is a potential to capture some revenue, and we all know we're really hurting in that regard. I'm just wondering if maybe 6 months, the Planning Board and Board of Health could get together and collaborate and have something to vote on. It just seems like a long time. It's already been legalized for a year. This was a year ago that it was voted in. Now we're going to punt it down the road another year. We're missing a chance to capitalize on some real revenue here. And I know everyone doesn't agree on it, but it is what it is. It's been voted on.
But this does say, or until such time as the town adopts zoning bylaws, whichever occurs earlier. So
Right.
the December 31st, 18 is the farthest point.
I understand.
Our target is May town meeting.
Thank you.
Okay,
They
thanks.
talked about that last night, they're going to try to make that.
Okay, Article 10. I'm not sure if you want to step away from this, Jim, or?
You want to pass over, and I can leave at the end if you like, come back to it, or I can leave right now.
No.
It's up to you.
Let's,
If you want, you go ahead, I'll just step out.
yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be great, I
No
think.
problem.
Okay. Okay, Article 10, Tax Incentive Financing Agreement, to see if the town will vote pursuant to General Law, Chapter 40, Section 59, and General Law, Chapter 23A, subsection 3A and 3F, to A, approve a tax increment financing, so-called TIF agreement, between J&E Precision Tool Company and the town of Southampton, substantially in the form as is on file with the town clerk, in parentheses, the TIF agreement, for property located at 115 Valley Road, map blank, lot blank, and as described more fully in the TIF agreement, which TIF agreement provides for real estate tax exemptions at the exemption rate schedule set forth therein. B, authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute the TIF agreement and any documents relating thereto. And C, authorize the Board of Selectmen to approve the submission of the TIF agreement and certified project application and any associated documents to the Massachusetts Economic Assisting Coordinating Council, all relating to the project as described in the TIF agreement to be located in the Southampton EOA and certified project application, and take such other and further action as may be necessary or appropriate to obtain EACC approval, implement these documents, and carry out the purposes of this article, or take any action relative thereto.
Is this from the assessors?
I'm not sure who put this in, but it looks like it's in the clerk's office now. The assessors did get together, they had a group.
Yeah.
And did they bring it forward?
Yes. The recommendation of town council was, because there is a member of the board involved, that the Board of Selectmen step aside on this and ask the town administrator to put together a small group to take a look at it and to make a recommendation at town meeting. This is a matter for town meeting only. The selectmen have no role here. It's a matter that will be decided at the town meeting. Tax increment financing programs have been in effect in Massachusetts for several decades. It's developed because Massachusetts wants to encourage manufacturing. We have lost a lot of manufacturing, and so the state wants to encourage it, and they've authorized local communities to enter into agreements where new taxes on new investments to increase manufacturing are stair-stepped over a period of time. And that's basically what this would accomplish. There is a manufacturing facility already at 107 Valley Road, I believe. There's a vacant parcel of land next door. The manufacturing facility and the vacant parcel will continue to pay taxes at the same level as they've paid in the past. That does not change. However, on the vacant parcel of land, if this goes forward, if the investment goes forward, there will be a new investment. My understanding is about $600,000 to build supplemental manufacturing capacity. That $600,000 building would ordinarily be taxed at the full rate of taxation as soon as it's completed. What the TIF does, it allows the community to enter into an agreement, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, that would allow the owner to pay the new taxes over a period of years. Let's just say, I believe that what we've looked at here, the taxes on this new building would be in the range of $10,000. And they're looking at a 5-year agreement. And it would be roughly 20% per year. So the first year after the building is built, 20% of that $10,000 would be paid in tax. The next year, 40%, 60%, 80%, and in the 5th year, 100% of those new taxes. It is a tax break to encourage manufacturing investment, as well as jobs. I think what the proponents of the TIF will say is that this is going to, as part of the agreement, commit to a certain number of new jobs in the town, which will certainly be helpful in terms of individuals who get jobs, who can pay taxes in town, and maybe buy a house in town. So those are the, I think in a nutshell, those are the terms of this agreement.
And specifically percentages of local employees.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so quick question. It's all about dollars and cents.
Yep.
I mean, at the end of the day, so I would think in full transparency, you need to put some dollars and cents in here. You need to show what the impact is on
Yes.
the tax.
That will be explained.
Oh, dollars, like real dollars, like you, Mr. Constituent of the town of Southampton, will pay $20,000 over a 5-year period.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, I hear you guys on the growth, but these people aren't going to live in town.
Oh,
And-
no, well, we can't make those
Well,
assumptions.
but can we swing it and say they have to live in town? So I guess, but I'm countering what Bob said. He gave a nice pitch on it for it, so a little bit against it.
Yeah.
No guarantee that we're getting any more tax revenue, that they're going to live in town. No guarantee that we're going to get any other tax benefits out of it, because who says they're going to buy lunch in town? Who says they're going to do anything in town? So at the end of the day, I hear you, but it's an existing business in here that's adding 15 more jobs that could be in town, could not be in town. So again, I think in the transparency of what we're going for here is you should have the dollars and cents and let the townspeople make an intelligent decision that is this worth investing $20,000 of our money that we're probably going to have to do an override to compensate that money over the next few years.
This is the legal warrant only.
Yeah.
The warrant that will be distributed at the town meeting will have an explanation and a summary of each article.
In dollars.
And in that summary, we will lay out the proposed agreement. In fact, I will more than likely have copies of the proposed agreement available.
Okay, that's my concern.
So I guess my question on that is why do we not have the information today, right? So committee's reviewing this.
We do. We're reviewing the warrant. We're not reviewing.
I understand.
Yeah.
But we're going to leave today, and the Finance Committee is going to meet at a later date to recommend articles in the warrant. Without actual information and numbers, how do we make recommendations?
Janine has it, so you can get a copy of that
Okay.
with the
It's
exact
available.
numbers.
I
Yeah.
mean, what I understand tonight's about is whether or not the Board of Selectmen are going to allow warrant articles to go forward.
Yeah, but it's a point well taken. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of information not in this warrant that should be required to decide whether an article goes forward, right?
Well, the thing is, from a practical point of view, Mike, it's going forward because we have a 4-member board. We have one of the people directly involved, and we have an abutter. So we have only 2 people that can vote, and so we can't take it off.
And that's fine, the lack of information is difficult, because then it limits you to what we can ask questions in this public forum prior to the meeting, right? Because without the information in front of us, we can't, the voters can't, the people on TV can't text you to ask what, it's a problem.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So
Is Janine in tonight? No? She wouldn't be in tonight.
She's not
Thursday,
in.
Yeah. I'm thinking Tuesday, yeah.
So, just backing up quickly, so the Board of Assessors met and agreed on the TIF, along with,
The Board of Assessors and several other individuals have met twice. A third meeting will take place before the town meeting in order to get a recommendation from the group.
When's that next meeting?
what's the
January
recommendation?
the 8th.
So what recommendation are we looking for, or would you be looking for from the group?
The actual
I
numbers.
think individuals in the
numbers were
group will
with
make their own
percentage
decision
discount.
on that.
I thought the numbers were posted with,
Well, the actual TIF is, and
The actual proposal, I have in my office,
okay.
and I believe the clerk has it.
yeah, it says she does.
When's the meeting scheduled to review?
It would be the next regular meeting of the Board of Assessors,
It's January 8th, he's saying.
January 8th.
It's 5:30 or what time?
It would be 5 o'clock, I believe.
4:30?
I mean, they start their meeting at 4:30.
Yeah, they start at 4:30, and we have discussed this at 5.
Okay, so 5.
Okay. Just curious when we'll get the information so we can
Yep.
vote to recommend prior to the town meeting.
Okay, Article 11.
You want to ask Jim back?
Good point. Thank you.
And did you hear that the broadcast is going through? Did you hear that the broadcast is going through?
No, she gave up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not getting anything. Okay, Part 4, financial items. Article 11, unpaid bills. To see if the town will vote to transfer $2,365.10 to the prior year bills account for unpaid bills from fiscal 2017 for HVAC services from BG Mechanical and Blanchard and Daly, and an Eversource bill from the fire department. Said sum to be taken from free cash or take any other action relative thereto. Gonna guess there's no issues with that.
Vicki, do you want to say anything about that? Or is it pretty clear?
Yeah.
And I can tell you where the bills came from, if you want to know that, but Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant, Pomeroy Meadow Road. We had a bill, B&G Mechanical fixes our HVAC system, and for whatever reason, they were sending the bills to the assessor's office, and during Mike's absence, the bills got stacked on his desk, and so the April quarterly payment for our service contract from B&G got missed. Plus, at that point in time, when they billed us for other work done at the end of June, there was no money left in that budget line item, so I couldn't pay those bills. The Blanchard and Daly bill, the $180, was for electrical work done in relations to the heating coils that were done on this roof, which didn't come to me before June 30th. And then there was no money left in that account to pay that bill. And then the Eversource bill from the fire department, not quite sure what happened. But I finally got in touch with them to send me a bill, and so we were going to pay that one. Because they don't ever miss their bills, but, so.
So are these line items already transferred, or?
Part of it is that if I get a bill and there's no money left in that budget line item after June 30th, I can't accrue it because I can't transfer any more money based on state statute after July 15th. So if I get a bill after July 15th and there's no money left in that line item, I can't even accrue it to potentially pay it this year for last year. And that's what happened with the bill from B&G Mechanical. The assessor brought it to my attention and said, I think this belongs to you, because it had their suite on it. And so because Mike was out,
Yeah.
it kind of sat on their desk. And so I talked to the woman and explained that you had to wait till town meeting, and I don't think she was happy, but she seemed okay with it. So, but if bills come to my office after July 15th, when we've done our last year-end transfers, and there's no money in that budget line item, I cannot accrue them. And I've made the rule that if you bring me a bill past July 30th for the previous fiscal year, you got to go to town meeting, because I can't keep my books open forever for all these little bills that potentially could be trickling in because people don't remember that they called for service, that they ordered supplies, or however the bills get missed, which it happens. We have a lot of bills that we pay every week, so.
And we do this every year. There's
Yes.
always some bills out.
There's always a few bills that kind of trickle in, and that B&G just happened to be a bigger one, so,
I just want to understand why a budget item is coming from free cash, that's all.
yeah. I mean, you can take it from stabilization if you choose. It's up to wherever you want to
Where the
take it
money
from.
is,
I
yeah.
just wanted to be able to explain it, that's all.
Yep.
Thank you, Vicki. Article 12, additional funding for town hall building expenses, to see if the town hall will vote to transfer $13,000 to the town hall building expense account for the new service contract and other expenses related to repair of the HVAC control system. Said sum to be taken from the town administrator's salary account, or take any other action relative thereto.
So we, as you probably already are well aware, we had a company that did our HVAC system in this building, S&E. Their yearly, we had a 3-year contract, their yearly service agreement was about $7,800 to $8,000. Then, the previous town administrator decided she was going to change that contract to B&G Mechanical because it was a lot less expensive. But unbeknownst to her or us as a town, that B&G Mechanical service contract did not include being able to control the proprietary software that controls the HVAC system. So we had to, this year, pay for that proprietary software in order to be able to control our HVAC, since we have a service agreement with B&G Mechanical going forward. So that was like $4,600, which we didn't anticipate, because at the time of budgeting, if we had known that, we would have put that money in the budget. The other piece is they spent, was it like an extra week, I think, working
Yes.
on it?
$3,400.
$3,400 for that extra week to break into the proprietary, not break into, but try to hack it in order to gain control and put their controls in there in order for us to have, regulated heating and air conditioning in this building instead of it going up and down, I come in and my office is 62 degrees, but then Board of Health is at 80, So anyway, that's $3,400 that we have not yet paid. We're going to need money for the rest of the contract quarterly payments for B&G that we currently have. So you have the $4,600 plus the $3,400, plus we still owe $3,400 for the contract. Then we also have to pay quarterly bills for water, quarterly bills for IRS, which is the residential security. We have to pay quarterly bills for the rest of the year for the fire sprinklers. They come, maybe it's twice a year, they come, test all the fire sprinklers and all that, which we haven't paid for yet.
So is all that wasn't in the budget?
It was, but because we had to pay, let's see, $4,600, plus we had to pay extra money for the Bay State elevator. We paid like $1,200 for a new battery for the elevator, which we didn't have in the budget.
These were emergency repairs.
Correct. And the custodian had purchased some, since we got a new custodian, she did purchase some new items that are definitely help. All the new toilet dispensers and all that came out of the budget. And so going forward, we're going to need money for those service contracts that we signed.
So this budget cycle, you're going to have to add more
Yep.
to it?
Yes and no. Yes, because we will have a new service contract with B&G, but no, because we won't have to pay for the software piece again.
With the battery. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
brought this up at the last select board meeting. Did they contact the new company, contact anybody in town hall to say, this is going to cost, a week's more work? And anybody look back at the contract from the original proprietary software to see whether they had the right to lock up our stuff so that nobody else could get at it and maintain it?
The old company, yeah, it was.
So we
that's
signed
what
a
their
contract that
was.
they had exclusive rights to access to the
Yes.
software?
Yep.
And did the B&G contact anybody in town hall to say it's, they think they give us a good deal, and maybe they did with the rate, took a lot longer than they're actually charging us for, but did they come to us and say, by the way, it's going to cost, $34 more $100? Or did they just do the work and then send us a bill?
I think they just sent us a bill, if I'm not mistaken. Vilda has it in her office, and that's being debated right now, whether or not we're going to actually pay that bill, I think, so. But that's in that budget of that $13,000, because if we decide that we're going to go forward and pay that, you don't want to have to come back again and ask for more money, because that doesn't make us look very good.
This summer, we were having regular breakdowns
Yes.
of the system, particularly on the hottest days, and there was a lot of unhappiness in the
Yeah,
building.
no, I
and-
get that it works much
Yeah.
better and everybody's happier. I'm just talking about the way people do business.
Right.
Well, I think that when we originally signed that contract with B&G, it wasn't apples and apples, it was apples and oranges. And if we had known that back then, that when we signed that contract, that whether it was not knowing or they didn't disclose that we weren't getting the same services as the S&E company, then we should have kind of addressed it at that point in time. So.
Thanks.
Just a quick observation. How can there be no checks and balances on spending? And that's just as a taxpayer here, and why I say that is because Vicki said we got a new custodian who just went out and bought dispensers. I mean, not a big dollar amount, but is there no checks and balances? And to your point, Maureen, I work in service, we have a service arm in our company, and if you do work without a change order, don't expect to get paid for it. And I think it's...
Okay, that's not true. The custodian did clear
That was authorized.
Okay,
those
but-
purchases, and the grounds were, the basis was that what we now have is far less expensive than those automated dispensers that we had, where I guess they were cheap enough to buy, but the batteries to run them were costing us a significant amount of money. So this was a cost-saving decision, and it was cleared ahead of time.
But that's not how it was projected right here. I mean, we were coming up or asking... But so again, representing a townsperson and a finance committee member, I mean, when I hear another 13 grand because we didn't plan on this, bills came in and that, and that's why I have to question it.
There shouldn't be an assumption that things are happening without being cleared or controlled. Everything that the custodian has done in terms of purchases has been cleared, and it's been cleared and justified because it's a cost-saving measure. We were buying supplies to maintain this building from Home Depot, as opposed to buying supplies jointly with the school department. And so
Great point. So then if we save money, we should be able to pull that out of that budget to pay for this, right? Because here's where we're getting at here.
talking about the HVAC system, which is different.
No, I understand, but I think it's a systemic problem that we have here. We continuously overrun numbers in budgets, and a budget is set to be hit and not overrun. And that it's just an observation of my point and how it's projected. I think if we're going to ask for this stuff for the town, we better be a little bit crisper on how we outlay it.
I think we made the right decision on the HVAC system, which was breaking down regularly, and it was dysfunctional to have one company maintaining the control system and one company and another company maintaining the system itself. It didn't work. It resulted in breakdowns, and we had to make the decision that to go with one company. The fact that it took some additional, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I don't know if we want to continue the process.
I just wanted to make my observation. That was it.
One quick question, not about process, not dissecting it. Of the 13,000, is there an amount that will be a reoccurring cost that we will have to budget for next year? Just
Again,
of that piece?
Yeah, again, that's what Vicki should be involved with the finance team, but not here necessarily.
Okay.
You mean for the budget for next year?
Yeah, I mean, that's something offline I think you guys can discuss with the new town administrator. Okay, Article 13, to see if town will vote to transfer $148,246.50 to the Capital Stabilization Fund, said sum to be taken from free cash or taken any other action relative thereto. This is what we do every year. What's the percentage that we put into there, 20?
These are figured by the town accountant according to those percentages. One is 35.
35 for
Yeah.
the Capital Stabilization Fund, and if we jump down to Article 15, the Operating Stabilization Fund, is that 35? That's 30?
Right.
And the OPEB, which is
OPEB.
Article 14, is 25. So these are standard transfers from free cash. Did about 3 years ago?
Yep.
Right. That's to build up the accounts, the 3 accounts. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to transfer $4,800 from free cash to the police department expense account for the purchase of 5 high-velocity vests and 5 Kevlar helmets for active shooting situations, or take any other action relative thereto. Now, why is this an article versus from the expense line? Are these in addition to what they budgeted, or?
This wasn't in their budget. Their budget,
Yeah, these are reoccurring, I believe, every year they.
Nope, these are not. These are not the Kevlar vests that they currently wear now that have to be fitted to each individual officer. These are specifically for
Active shooter?
active shooters. So as the police chief would explain, everyone's running away from the shooter. They have to run to the shooter. You can't run in there without any protection at all. These vests come on, and you can secure them to whatever size person you have.
Okay.
And so they'll probably last quite a while because, knock on wood, we won't ever have to use them, but they're not something that's reoccurring every year.
Okay.
Until they wear out, we would not have to replace them, is my understanding.
Okay.
So,
It's a one-time purchase to make sure we have the right equipment.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Did you read 14 and 15, or did you?
Yeah, we went 13, 14, 15 all at once.
All at once, okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I missed that.
That's okay.
Snoozing.
Article 17, to see if the town will vote to transfer $6,800 from a town administrator's salary account to the building commissioner's salary account to compensate the commissioner for an additional 4 hours of work per week, or take any action relative thereto. Yes, sir.
So I'm honestly not standing up to rehash what we discussed a few days ago. The main point I want to make is we're going to take $6,800 from an active salary line item. Now, I am not aware of the incoming town administrator's salary, but if we take this money from their account, we give it to the building inspector permanently, or concurrently, right, it will go next year, you may be creating a future debt you need to pay for in the new town administrator's salary line item. I'm not sure I think it was budgeted at 80. If we just remove 13, and let's say a portion of that 13 was reoccurring, you bring 80 down to 75, let's say 5 was reoccurring of that, and then you take another 6,800 out, so then you're at, call it 69,000 a year. If that's less than what we agreed to pay him, we've now just encumbered a debt next year we need to pay for. So
I can answer that.
Okay.
Vicki has taken a look at the funds that are in that account, and because the town is underpaying me, these funds are available because of savings in the first 6 months. And there will be 6 months' worth of the salary that was agreed to with the new town administrator available in that account to finish out the year. There is obviously...
I'm worried about next year.
Right, but
not
next
this
year, in fact, next year, this would mean an addition of $6,800 in the budget of the building commissioner.
Do we know where we would find that $6,800 today?
Not yet, that's part of the budget process.
I mean, this is a
Budget is a
priority
yearly
setting.
living document that should be looked at all times. So making future decisions like this and then hoping to find the revenue in 5 months is not fiscally responsible, to be honest with you. I'm not against the building commissioner being compensated for what he does. We've discussed this. He does a great job. But when we're making these promises with no idea how we're going to pay it with the upcoming issues we have financially, it's a serious concern. I don't want to belabor it. I don't want to go back and forth, but it's something to be worried about, and we should really be putting more attention into next year today.
I can respond to that, John. we did consider that. We are basically saying that next year, the salary will be increased by this amount. There's another side of the coin, and that is those who are trained and certified for this kind of position want full-time work. First of all, there's plenty of work, and he works more than his 31 hours. If, in fact, we're not able to provide, then he will leave. And that's not an idle threat. And then, when the town tries to recruit a replacement, you're going to have a nightmare of several months when you don't have anybody issuing permits, number one. And number two, you're going to have to go to full-time anyway if you want to recruit a replacement. And so that was the consideration, among others, that kind of trumps the problem that we have with the $6,800.
I'm concerned about the person who may be laid off because we moved that 6,800.
Remember, the fees, I know, we don't rehash much, the fees are going up at least $4,000.
Correct.
In this, 6,800 is less than the 11,500. Instead of, he wanted 40 hours, this will bring him from 31 to 35. But, yeah, we've rehashed it, so I don't know that we want to.
He will point out that building permit fees have gone from $55,000 2 years ago to over $100,000 now.
Because you doubled the fees. We doubled the fees. So a couple things that we got to look
hard,
at.
yeah.
A couple things we got to look at here. What does that do? That kicks them to a full-time. So what's the other ramifications on our
Not full-time,
pensions?
35 hours.
But doesn't it kick into the pension differently?
Oh, of course, at 4 hours.
So again, it's not just $6,800,
Yeah.
it's pension.
Yeah.
On top of that, building is down in town. Building permit issues are down in town.
That is not true.
Yes, it is. Look at the revenues. You said it yourself, Bob,
This
185,000.
isn't a place to discuss.
But it's wrong, guys.
Well,
I'm a
that's-
builder in town,
that's an
and this is
opinion.
wrong. You can't keep doubling the permit fees and then watch building go down and keep your spending going up, because we are a bedroom community. Our taxes are predominantly from houses, and we're not building any more houses because we're getting priced out to build in this town. And this is wrong to increase another $6,800. If we feel we want to increase our building and have more activity with the building, Mike is right. It's got to come from somewhere because we've got a huge deficit, and we've got to be fiscally responsible. And that is the job of the Finance Committee, and you guys are about to pump up another $10,000 reoccurring charge, probably between benefits and also mileage. Because if I look at the report from Tom, and he does a great job, but he's spending 5 hours a week driving around town looking for violations. So we're paying for gas money, and then he's not putting fees or fines on the violations. So again, we have to look at this seriously. And I hear what you're saying, that it's a full-time position, but if we don't warrant a full-time position, why do we pay for a full-time position? We never had a full-time building inspector, and we've gone through great booms of building in this town, and we're in a down spot of building, and now we're looking for a full-time inspector. This is a spot that we need to think seriously about spending our money.
He doesn't get paid mileage, he gets paid a stipend for, it doesn't matter how many miles he drives, he gets paid a stipend per month for whatever mileage he drives.
$200 a month.
So-
Well, I think we're going
Yeah.
beyond that. Is there anybody on the board here that has an issue with this staying on?
No, I have no
Okay, so
problem.
let's go on to the next one. Otherwise, we'll be here all night on this. This will come up at town meeting again. Okay, Article 18, to see if the town will vote to transfer $500 from free cash to the expense budget of the Agricultural Committee, or take any other action relative to, thereto. This has got to be a non-issue. Oh, sorry, Mike.
Just a little historical information. 3 years ago, the Select Board and the Town Administrator decided to, during the budget cycle, remove all funding of committee expense lines outside of the Select Board. So unless other committees are being afforded the same opportunity and are being advised of the same opportunity that they can now seek funding through town meeting, I don't agree with this. We removed all of those so we don't create reoccurring costs for different committees, and now we're just arbitrarily choosing to put money into one. I don't know what it's for. It is small dollars, but we're setting a precedence to where every committee should be able to come back and ask for funds for that.
You want to say anything about being on the Agricultural Committee?
Basically, town voted that this is a right to farm community, and the agriculture committee wanted to print out some flyers and stuff like that, maybe get some signs, simple stuff, just to make people aware. That's it.
Is this a one-time fee, or is it an annual occurring?
This is a one-time.
One time?
So this is using taxpayer funds to fund advertising for private enterprise. Remember, and that's what it is.
It's to promote the town.
There's businesses named on those.
I believe there's an error. It's the Agricultural Commission, not committee. They're,
Is it, Commissioner?
You're right, it is.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, article, yes.
I move to strike the article.
Anybody want to second that?
Who was the sponsor of it? I'm just curious.
It came out of the commission, they asked me to put it on here.
And that is because why?
Because Mike brings up a good point, it's advertising private business.
Are we talking about the flyers that talk about where local businesses are and that sort of
Yeah,
thing?
I want to make a second, just so we have the conversation, make it legit.
Second. Well,
I
second.
got, okay, yep. So,
So for example, the flyers that came out to say where the
They-
farms
they say
are
where
and,
the farms are, who they are, how to contact them, everything else. It's basically using public money to take and advertise private business.
so rather than say we're a farming community, that would be advertising specific businesses?
Yeah, because it narrows it down.
Yeah, okay.
And I agree with Mike.
So if
Okay.
that's what it's going to do, then. So we have a motion and a second to delete
Bob, you
Article,
want to say
Yes,
something?
yes, as part of our right to farm bylaw, there's a clause in there requiring us realtors to advise anyone moving into town of the right to farm bylaw, so that they know that if we're going to move adjacent to a farm, that there might be some agriculture, some barnyard noises or odors and so forth. My understanding when this came in is that at least some of this money was going to be used for that purpose, to print up that kind of information so that people moving in would have their eyes open when they came in.
but you being on the committee are saying it would be more to advertise the
Well,
existing?
it ends up advertising the existing farms, is what it ends up doing. And Mike's point is valid, I don't disagree with him on that, looking at it from the angle he just presented.
Okay, so it's both angles, but
And-
it's enough of it?
It's small money, so it's not like, you know,
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Out.
Okay, unanimous?
Thank
Hi, sorry, Heather Pellegrini, 76 Crooked Ledge Road. Only because the timing seems appropriate. Bob, how are you making out with that form that we're supposed to have when we sell property?
We have to have money to do it, and I saw this as an opportunity to print up some forms to provide to the realtors.
Oh, you could probably just do something electronically and distribute it that way. Just a suggestion, thanks.
Or get some volunteer money, I guess. Anybody else here?
Put it on Ed's to-do list.
Yeah. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to transfer $55,600.24 to the Halloween 1029-11 account to pay off the loan from the 2011 Halloween storm. Said sum to be taken from free cash or take any other action relative thereto. Vicki, do you want to address that?
So, back in October of 2011, we had that freak storm. We took all the expenses related to that particular storm, and we were reimbursed some FEMA money. Then at the very end, the previous highway superintendent had submitted a form to get reimbursed 75% of $51,925 from MEMA through FEMA. And we waited and waited and waited to see if we would get reimbursed for that money. Then it came to my attention that most of the communities had already received their funds. And then when the new superintendent came on, he did a lot of phone calls to try and figure out whether we were going to get this money or not get this money. Then it was determined that we were not going to receive this reimbursement from MEMA. And so what has happened since we spent the money is we have to cover every deficit. So the treasurer has been short-term borrowing every year, paying the interest, and we've been applying $15,000 out of our budget to pay that down for the past, 5 years. But if you look at the Mass General Law, Once it is determined that you are not going to be getting any federal funding from a particular grant or source, you can only span this short-term borrowing for 2 years. So we need to pay this off, and per our financial advisor, in order to do long-term bond borrowing, this would be in our best benefit to finally pay this off, since we know that we're not going to be getting
This will
this
pay it
funds.
right off.
What was the total that we came up with that we had to borrow initially?
It was like $85,000,
Okay.
Okay.
somewhere around there. I had a whole spreadsheet, but
Yeah.
that was a long
Do
time
you know how
ago.
much we're saving by paying it off early?
We pay 500 and some odd bucks a year for interest.
Oh,
And
so
then
it's-
we are going to be saving that $15,000 in the budget.
Every
Well, this year 10, because we dropped it to 10 this year, that we
pay it
normally
off
would
as we
budget
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
to pay this down.
when I got on this board, one of the things I did is I researched the whole history of that and came to the same conclusion they came to. That money wasn't coming back here.
No, I mean, and part of the issue too is there was a change in the Mass DOT, to the contact person to try and figure out who we were going to get that money from, and it never came to fruition, so. But that will save us, well, this year, 10 grand, so, 10.5 in the budget that we won't have to put forth to pay this down.
Okay.
So,
Just a general question. At the end of this, are you going to have a tally of how much free cash we're going to? Okay.
it's not much.
Yeah. Okay, Article 20, to see if town will vote to transfer $10,000 to the legal budget to fund extraordinary legal costs this fiscal year, said sum to be transferred from free cash or take any other action relative thereto. Okay, Article 21, to see if the town will vote to transfer $1,000 from free cash to the certification stipends account to fund the town approved stipend for attaining treasurer/collector certification or take any other action relative thereto. This is for the treasurer. Article 22, transfer for the let me just read the article. To see if the town will vote to transfer $3,280.20 from free cash to the building department expenses account to fund the purchase of flat file storage drawers or take any action relative thereto.
Just a quick comment on that. It kind of underscores that we really need to look at a policy on our document retention, because if we're going to go down the micro-fiche road, or fiche road, why do we need to spend $3,200 on cabinets if we're going to digitize the stuff? So again, looks like to a policy or direction that we need to set before we keep spending money in different areas.
You said microfiche, you're scaring me. We're going backwards with that.
Well, that,
Microfiche.
laser, I'm sorry, you're right, John, showing my age, but just that point there, because I mean, we spend 2,100 there a year, 35 here, I mean,
I think, and I'm not sure, but I may have some flat files where I work that we can donate to a town, so I'm going to check on that.
So what do you want to do with the article then?
Yeah, I mean, that money, if we're going to spend that kind of money, it would go well towards digitizing in there.
John, can I just explain?
Sure.
These flat files are often very large documents.
They're for drawings, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so ordinary cabinets, as well as the document management system, typically can't accommodate that. I know communities that do digitize flat files, that requires, unfortunately, a special machine, fairly expensive, and I don't think that's probably in the cards for the town for the near future.
We need more storage?
Pardon?
We need more storage, or it's going to go in the cloud?
I'm going to disagree.
In the
that
near
we-
term, the
we
town's
can't
going to need more
digitize.
storage for paper files.
Yeah, are these,
These are like C and D size.
Correct.
things.
are these all the people that are building houses in town that bring in their drawings, so he puts them in a file to refer to them as they're building?
Yes.
As they're building, but keep in mind, building a house is call it a 2-year process. Those plans get rolled up and put away until
All right, does he-
forever, to be honest. Those flat file storages, we use them at work, I've used them where I worked before. You can only fit so many plans in there. They're kind of cumbersome to work in, to pull out the drawers, to put things in. And if we're talking about storing building plans from a house that was built 5 years ago, you'd roll them up and put them in tubes or stack them
Toolbox,
somewhere.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
cost-saving measure, if plan racks are needed or something a little less expensive, those are much more easier than 3,200.
I mean, I'd entertain a motion to delete this article if somebody wants to do that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like he said, those plan racks that you can get, you can actually hang on,
Oh, yeah, you
instead
can.
of drawing on a whole bunch.
Well,
Because
like-
if they're coiled up, if they come in a roll,
Yeah.
and you unroll them and you put them in a file drawer and you try to open the drawer, they're curling up, and I can just see the.
And the drawers are only, you know.
Unless they have a strap that you,
Those drawers are meant for the Mylar copies.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily meant for the paper, they're
Right.
meant for permanent Mylars you can pull out and copy.
Yeah.
I wish he was here to talk about that, I didn't. Does he have any drawers in there? Can he purge the system and use those?
No,
He has no drawers in there at all.
not those type of drawers, no.
I mean, that's a lot of money personally we could use elsewhere. You know,
That's for two of them, I have those.
Yeah.
And he asked
Yeah.
back in August.
I gotta tell you, these things are so easy to buy used. It's not funny because most people don't use them anymore. Yeah.
And the racks, they're very affordable, they're portable, they got wheels,
Yeah,
much easier to work with.
yeah.
Why don't we, I consider removing it, and then maybe if he comes back with an urgent need or some other reasoning why he needs it, we can always do it in May, but I think maybe we should, think about removing that one.
Do you wanna make the motion?
I'll second it. No. No. I'll make the motion, we remove Article 22, and, yeah,
Okay,
that's it.
I'll second it.
okay. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Hopefully we can find some good used ones, John.
Well, I got an idea where I can, so I'm gonna check.
Perfect.
Okay, Article 23, to see if the town will vote to transfer $56,375 from ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation to see if the EMS wage account, to the EMS wage account to transfer $5,833.31 from ambulance receipts to the fire department expense account, or take any other action thereto.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Because this seems to be two actions in one warrant. Shouldn't it be two articles?
Town council didn't find a problem in this transaction, so.
I may consider dividing the question. We'll vote on one and we'll vote on the other.
So we can, is it the wish of the board that we split and do two? Do two?
Yeah, sure.
So we're taking 56, 375.
We all set with 23? Do we have to separate it now, or just, oh, Michael?
So one question, what is for the 56,375? What is that for, if the department's budgeted fully today?
You know, Bob?
I have not been involved, I just put this on the warrant. I haven't been involved with the police, or the fire chief on this.
Okay.
It's my understanding, but it's only an understanding because I never got into any real detail with this. But this was to fund it so that there'd be paramedic service basically 24/7.
Okay. So 24/7 service.
And the way I understood it, it was going to be the night shift would only have one paramedic there.
Right.
Instead of two, yeah, I heard that.
So one to drive, one to drive the ambulance there.
To the scene, picking up the driver at the scene.
Okay.
Or using Uber. Oh, just
Do
kidding.
they come out at night like that?
You gotta have a budget, yeah.
So I'd ask about the fire building expense account, just to confirm if that's a reoccurring increase or not, or if that's just something that came up.
That I don't know.
Okay, so my next point, yearly, we transfer approximately $150,000 from ambulance receipts to the fire department for funding. We do that at the annual town basis. Now we're asking to take $56,000 at the special town meeting basis to fund those line items more. We can call that $210,000 to operate that department being transferred from ambulance receipts on a yearly basis. To my knowledge, we do not bring in $210,000 worth of revenue in ambulance receipts a year. So this will, again, put us at a future deficit for something if we move forward with this, unless I'm wrong with the revenue. I know we had talked about when we went to the second shift and the staggered second shift that there would be a revenue study, seeing if we were bringing in more revenue, if we were missing less calls. I haven't heard anything from that. I don't know where that is. Once again, I'm just looking forward to next year if we're creating a trap for 19 with the revenue.
Again, obviously Mecca had a hell of a head cold, but what I heard indirectly is that they have generated enough revenue to offset the expenses of this operation. Vicki could answer this better than I could. She has the numbers, I don't.
Yeah.
Well, currently, there's enough money in there to cover these items here that are, but I cannot project what they're gonna collect in the future in that sense.
Do we have a rolling history? What do we typically collect? 'Cause
I don't have that with me, but
Part of that's a problem, because we're actually, if you watch what's going on here, you're seeing the service evolving and getting more active, because we're not doing mutual aid with other communities. So the revenue stream's slowly increasing, and as it's been increasing the last year, what I understand's been happening is we've been taking that new revenue that's been coming in to take and pay for more staff time, which is causing us to have more revenue coming in, so we're paying for more staff time. So we're slowly catching up to this.
But is it? And that's my question, because we did meet a year ago and discuss that the increases in revenue would be illustrated to everyone. I'm not arguing against the third shift at all, but before we move forward as a town, as the executive leaders of this community, you should know whether or not this is going to create a deficit in how we fund that department. To go back to some of the conversations I've had with John, when we put things like this in front of all the voters, and if they're uninformed, we may not like the result of this. If this creates a deficit in the future and we don't do the research now, we will, and other departments may be in trouble next year. So
The point is well taken.
I'm hoping there's more information when the article goes before the town meeting.
And I have an analysis I did for last year, the year before, I can send it to you guys, of the revenue stream from 2011 going forward for ambulance. In previous years, it has been the practice to take all of the money out of ambulance to cover the entire ambulance service at that point in time. So there were years where we took $225,000 out, put in the revenue stream in order to cover that entire budget. And that was just one shift. And that was on call. So if you think about when you had one shift on call and it cost you $225,000 3 years ago, I don't think this is too bad, but Mike is right in terms of
The numbers, we need,
look at it.
to make the informed decision, we just need the numbers, and if it works out and it's self-supporting, then it's favorable towards the article, but we need the information.
Is that 23 or 24?
That was 23.
Long one. Okay, Article 24, to see if the town will vote to transfer $6,346 from the ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation to the fire chief's salary account to cover negotiated salary for the fire chief, or take any other action relative thereto.
Hi, Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant, Pomeroy Meadow Road. I don't know if you want to write something in there to the effect of, that is for the part of the contract that deems him the EMS director or EMS supervisor, or however you want to word it, however it's worded in his contract. Because otherwise, just to take it from ambulance receipts reserve and put it into the fire chief's salary line item without knowing that it's purposely for his work as the coordinator, the director of the EMS, because otherwise legally, the auditors might have a hard time with it just going into the fire chief's salary. Obviously, they'll have the contract to look at, but you might want to write something in that article that kind of relates to that.
Did
Because
council
I
say
think
anything
it's
about that?
I think it's in the contract, those words. I'm not quite sure what those words are. I don't have the contract in front of me. So, but that's spelled out in his contract, so.
Okay.
To avoid questions, that's all I'm,
Does anybody want to amend the article to clarify it as Vicky suggested?
Second.
Okay, so we can amend it to negotiate a salary for the fire chief to serve as EMS director?
I'm not quite sure what it,
But something
Put
similar.
down to the fire chief's account to cover negotiated salary for the fire chief's service as EMS director.
Service. Okay,
Is that okay? Agreeable?
agreeable?
because on the surface, someone looks at this, even if it's an auditor or the department, they don't have that backup information of what's in his contract, they might have a hard time with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not unanimous? Okay, Article 25, to see if the town will vote to transfer $15,000 from the free cash fund to the Select Board expenses account for the purchase of land at 215 College Highway as described in a deed recorded with the Hampshire Registry of Deeds in Book 10432, page 49, or take any other action relative thereto. This is the land across the street?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the lot adjacent, where the old Grange used to be.
We actually put a sign in the grass that says 215, so people know exactly where it is.
Covers the cost of the land at 10,000 plus all the expenses going with it, correct?
Yeah, we also have scheduled in here to do the perk test and all
Right,
that.
but that's all covered in this cost.
Yeah, I did some preliminary testing with the Board of Health, and we found area that seems to be suitable for a septic system. So we can work on repairing the old town hall down the road with this.
Okay, no questions? Article 26, video, to see if town will vote to transfer $5,020 from free cash to the police department expenses account to cover the cost of replacing a failing video dash camera in a police cruiser or take any other action relative thereto. This is $5,000 for one dash camera? Does anybody?
Well, it's actually more than one dash camera, because you got the recording equipment in there, and there's another camera in there. If I remember right, there's a camera forward and a camera backward into the recording device.
And this is not for the new cruiser, this is for an existing cruiser.
You know, all the new cruisers came through with the budget, with new
Right.
equipment.
Okay.
And this camera's about 8 years old.
Okay, so from my point of view, I mean, between where it says failing video dash camera in a police cruiser, I'd like to amend it to failing video dash camera system, so when
Yeah.
people see that
Yeah.
amount. So can I have a motion to do that?
So move.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any conversation on that?
No.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I'm adding the word system.
System, yeah.
System after camera.
Yes. Okay.
Article 27, to see if the town will vote to transfer $1,400 to the Select Board expense account to pay the remaining balance to the Collins Institute for background checks and travel during the search for a new town administrator. Said sum to be taken from the town administrator's salary account or taken any other action relative thereto. Why were we short on?
Background checks on these.
So
10,000, right?
originally, we voted $10,000, which was in the contract, and it said, which I didn't have the final scope of the project, but the contract was for $10,000 plus any expenses for travel and back, I mean, it said it right there in the contract.
So
And we
this
didn't
is-
put
this
that
is
in the
right.
budget. We didn't know, I mean, I guess we could have put some in the budget, we didn't know how much it would be,
Do we
so.
have an accounting for that $1,400? Have they detailed what that equals? Okay,
Yep. And I told him he'd have to wait till town meeting, so.
okay. No questions? Okay.
Question?
Excuse me. Article 28, to see if the town will vote to transfer $4,900 from free cash to the police department expense account for the purchase of a portable radar speed limit sign or take any other action relative thereto. This is, I believe, to replace our old one, correct?
That's right, the old Lions Club trailer doesn't have the versatility that the police department would like to have. Has a service issue all the time, has to be repaired. These here, basically, it's my understanding, an officer can literally put it up on their own.
Yes.
Because we spent a few dollars a couple of years ago fixing that one, I remember.
Right.
It's old,
Yeah. Still tells me I'm going too fast.
and you haven't gotten that message yet?
Yes, sir.
So along those lines, I live on East Street. The one that's broken down was usually set up at East and Pleasant. It was kind of usually there. I understand the need for these, but as a resident, I would ask that they not just be used as a deterrent, that we use them to help ticket individuals that are speeding, because I drive by the one on my street and park in my driveway, and I'd watch people still go by at 50 miles an hour. So these are great, but unless there's someone in the area, we're spending $4,900 just to tell people how fast they're going.
Yes.
You would like a camera system attached to this?
That's perfectly fine.
Take a photograph, and then we can electronically send that to the station?
That's fine.
And the ticket can be printed?
If it goes up at Pleasant and East Street, that's perfectly fine. Just, I mean, to be honest, just following up on some of
The
those.
deterrent is worthy, too.
I don't know if they're really a deterrent.
I said,
I
the
wouldn't buy
deterrent
one.
is worthy, too.
I went by one the other day, and it had a cardboard leaning up against it, and it had high score, and it had 89. So unless you ticket, I mean, that would
Right.
definitely deter it. Sometimes people
I
think it's a
just-
game.
I understand the need for it, but someone there ticketing as well is going to help the cause, both revenue-wise and safety-wise.
Well, my guess is that while this is going on here, there's a cruiser radar over somewhere else in town, you know?
It's been said to me that it's the radar sign that's by the Norris schools helps a lot, because it's got people thinking.
It does remind you.
But it's a school zone, too. I mean, a rural road is a little different. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant, Palmer Meadow Road. The one thing that the chief had mentioned, I think he was talking about in our department head meeting, was this particular one, like Charlie said, you can put up kind of on your own, and you don't have to drag it behind, but it gives you data in terms of, you know, I live on Palmer Meadow Road, and people do fly down my street. I don't know how fast they're going, but when you hear whoosh, you know they're going too fast. But the data that he can collect from that will tell you, this is the high speed, this is, so if someone says, people are driving too fast down my street, he can look at the data and say, well, the high speed is 38, the speed limit's 35, and it can tell you how many cars were going that speed. So he can collect all that data in order to maybe patrol that road a little more when people are speeding. So it has some good data to it, I believe, so.
Tell them what time, so that maybe they could be out there?
I don't know about the time, it might have the time, I'm not sure, he didn't mention the time about it.
I'm sure it does.
But he,
Yeah, because the road to Hampshire came into question a lot.
Mike wants to cut the middleman out and just go.
so anyway, that, it does, you know, if someone says, well, someone's always speeding on my street, and you look at the data and you're like, well, not really.
Yeah.
But you look at this street and, oh, yeah, then maybe he can patrol that street and give those tickets out on those things, so
So
anyway.
does this one have a camera? Or we
It
don't
does
know?
not.
Does not.
I
How
don't
much
think
more?
it does, I don't think,
Doesn't
that
have a
was.
camera, no.
No,
But there is research that shows very clearly that these are effective.
yeah,
in-
that's what he did mention,
For
so.
most people.
Yeah.
Maybe some will fly through, but most will not.
It collects
Slow
information,
down.
then, yeah. Okay, let's go on. Article 29, to see if the town will vote to transfer up to $10,000 from community preservation funds to the town hall door account to create access through the front doors at town hall. Said sum to be transferred from community preservation surcharges, historical preservation account, or take any other action relative thereto.
Does this also help with the energy efficiency?
Oh, it's this one out here.
Oh, okay.
The double doors here, or the one in the back?
No, the one is the front.
The front,
Face
yeah.
Route
Way
10.
out front.
They face Route 10.
Where the heater is that goes all the
Yep.
time,
Yeah,
Yep.
I would think it would help.
okay.
So the front door's facing college?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so my question then is, are they going to be automatic accessible doors?
You have to introduce yourself again, yeah.
And then if they're not, you're going to need signage to direct people who need to know where the accessible entrance is? Well, they're open anyway.
Not very accessible.
They can be used anyway.
If you folks can get in front of the speaker, so.
I'm saying, there's stairs there, right? Yeah. So if you don't have a ramp,
Right.
you need to direct people who need the use of a ramp to enter the building, or you need the ramp to direct people, to have people enter. If not, you need signage there to direct them to the accessible entrance. And then my other question was, did this $10,000 pay for the doors to be automatic? Or just regular doors?
They're not going to be handicapped accessible out front. This is just as a.
New and
weather-
weather-tight.
A weather
Yeah.
tight, yeah.
Virginia Ahart, 27 Fulmer Road, Community Preservation. Charlie came to me with this. The problem is that it is costing a lot of funds to heat that area, and if you seal the doors, it's an exit that you're sealing in case of an emergency.
Blocking an egress.
Can I answer a couple of these questions quick? Your signage statement is absolutely correct. There should be a sign over by the gazebo that directs people to the handicapped area of the building. That's been missing for years, and that's something the new town administrator can tackle. But yay big and like this has got posts. Usually they're blue, okay?
That's what I like to hear.
The second part to this was, it became obvious that we lose a lot of heat, air conditioning, and everything else because those doors are not even remotely sealed.
Right.
The $10,000 is basically a bench line so that we can put together an RFP and ask for proposals on how to address this door system. Nobody's looking at automated doors there. It's obviously gonna have to have breaker bars because it has to be a building code.
Yep.
Okay? But that's it, simplified.
And this was also on our energy reduction plan that we submitted for Green Communities certification.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if it's sealed, then it removes an exit.
You don't have any egress from this building. You're violating building codes, fire codes. So you're gonna have to put an axe in a glass case next to the door so you have something to get out with.
Okay, Article 30, see if the town will vote to transfer up to $40,000 to the Conservation Commission to fund necessary preservation, including a new roof for the Shepka Farm? Zipta Farm. I need more vowels. Zipka Barn. Said sum to be taken from the community preservation surcharges, undesignated account, or any other action relative thereto. So this is for the new roof. Is this taking off the old and putting it back historically, correct?
They did have a barn consultant come and look at the barn, and he assumes, knowing the age, and he was incredible about telling, looking at things and saying, this is the age of the barn, this is that it probably had a metal roof on it in the past. And that would be what he would be recommending. Apparently, I was surprised at that because apparently the age of the barn, I would not have assumed that they would have had a metal roof, but he said no, metal roofs were used much more before. There are also some other things that need to be done to make the barn really usable. And that is the hope of the Conservation Commission, that they can get it up to speed so it can be, one, preserved, and two, used. And it's my understanding there's someone that would like to use it.
Well, this barn is already under contract for the
Fletcher's.
land lease that we have.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. They have access to utilize that
Right,
building.
it's part of
However,
it.
the way the building is right now.
It can't-
Question, and I don't know the answer, is, in the lease or license, does it say that the person leasing it has to take care of the maintenance?
It might say that
Does.
about current
But not
upkeep,
capital.
but I would hesitate to ask anybody who would like to lease it and pay the town to pay for our past omissions.
It is already included in a lease, so we're not going to lease that again, it's already included.
Okay,
Yeah, but that's a capital expense, it's not up.
No, I'm just asking the question, yeah.
yeah, I mean, this should have been done years ago at our expense.
Okay, thank you.
Dan Pellegrini, Crooked Ledge Road. Concern I have, again, would be going back to the farm one here. Again, we're about to spend $50,000, $40,000 of taxpayers' money to give a barn for someone, for a for-profit organization. And I understand we leased it to them, but we leased it at $150 for 10 years and probably spent $3,000 to $4,000 on legal fees to write the contract, and now we're going to dump another 40 grand into the barn. So my question is that even legal to go and improve a piece of property like that and allow private industry to profit from that?
The lease is legal and us repairing it is legal, whether the monetary meets, which.
It's morally responsible.
More than that, it's the preserving of a historical building, which is one of the charges that community preservation has. To determine historical buildings, the Historical Commission determines historical buildings, and one of our charges is to preserve historical buildings. So it's our building, it belongs to Southampton, it's belonged to Southampton for 30 years or so, and it hasn't been taken care of.
No, and I would agree with that. I just, I'm concerned with the amount of money we're spending and allowing a business to make money off it. And
This is actually not as expensive as it might be, because we do have the previous one that was done however many years ago, and they can build off of that one.
It was a long time ago, like 1995, if I remember. The one we looked at was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was right after it was vacated, except for the police department.
It's going to be one where the new town administrator is going to engage himself to put together an RFP, put a scope of work together that's designed to take in and basically wrap the building so we don't lose it for deterioration and weathering, as well as potential expansion into other activities for a town. When that town administrator eventually comes on board.
Your list is getting long,
So anyway.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to donate him a pad and a pen.
Okay, Article 32.
Just let me remind you of one other thing. The things that community preservation can do is limited. Our money cannot be diverted to a lot of other things, whether people would like it or not.
Thank you. We still on Article 31?
Just in general, Heather Pellegrini, 76 Crooked Ledge Road, and I understand Virginia's point that these funds, CPC funds, are earmarked for specific expenditures, but they're also not going to go away. So we don't need to spend them just because there's money sitting in the bucket.
Yeah, right.
But this is for the voters to decide on, so.
And also, I want to remind everyone, it is a tax line item, so this is your tax money. And when it goes into a building that is for an individual not open to the public, for public use, there should be some serious question on that.
All right, you're not talking about the old town hall, you're talking.
No, I kind of switched over.
Okay,
Talking about-
I got a head cold as it is.
All right, let's keep
I'm going to
going.
move on to Article 32.
Thank you.
To see if the town will vote to transfer $3,718.98 to the town accountant to pay legal fees accrued during the purchase of property known as the Cook/County Roads Project. Said sum to be taken from community preservation surcharges undesignated, or take any other action relative thereto.
Vicki Morrow, Pomeroy Meadow Road, Town Accountant. When we went to purchase the Cook County Road, the original budget that was put together, the legal fee budget was, I think it was $5,000, but it ended up being more than that, and this is the end of that fees for the Cook County Road. We had to do it in 2 parcels, partly because of the way the watershed grant was given to us. It was given to us at the end of the year. And it didn't cover, because of the way the original article was written back in May of 2016, the amount didn't cover the entire purchase of that land, because we didn't get the $400,000 original grant, and so we needed to do it in 2 parcels, and this These legal fees are for the second parcel that we did in this fiscal year.
And that'll finalize all the
That will
amounts.
will be the last piece. And I talked to Catherine Klein at K&P, and she totally is understandable and is waiting.
Now, if I remember right, now, this is our half of the bill. Didn't Easthampton pay the other half?
Yeah.
Right, so this is our half.
Well,
Part of our half, yeah.
Whole thing was determined in the beginning. They would put,
You want to go up to the podium?
Sorry.
in the many, many meetings that I sat through to get to the breakdown on funding, it was decided that each municipality would hire their own lawyers for their part of the activity. And it just happened that ours, I don't know what happened with Easthampton, but Easthampton paid theirs. And I don't know whether she or he went over too, but it ended up that it was more complicated. And this was our town accountant's account.
Okay, thank you.
we paid for half of, the lawyers for the deed, we pay for half of some other studies that they did, but this is for, like Virginia said, our lawyers, K&P, that we had to pay, yeah. Everything else is
Okay.
done.
Article 33, see if the town will vote to transfer $12,000 to the Historical Commission to match a Massachusetts Records Advisory Board Preservation Grant for the straightening and cleaning of Revolutionary War and Civil War veterans' grave markers in Center Cemetery. Said sum to be taken from community preservation surcharges, historical preservation, and are contingent upon receiving the aforementioned grant or take any other action relative to. So that's pretty straightforward. And if we don't get the grant, we don't go ahead with it?
No, we got a grant this year.
Oh, we got the grant?
No, I
mean,
we got part of this.
Okay.
We had an article like this last year.
But we're still waiting for this particular grant to come
No,
through.
this is the third part of the grants. They are continuing grants as long as you have stones that need to be taken care of that are in the Civil War and Revolutionary War. And this would be the last time. This will cover our last stones.
Okay. So you're saying we have that grant already, it's just another year?
No, we have to, the Historical Commission has to apply each year
Okay.
until they finish, and they are able to, as long as they have more stones, they are able to. That doesn't mean they're going to get it.
Okay.
But we have,
Gotten a grant in the past.
yeah,
They applied for another grant.
yeah, two years we've gotten a grant.
Okay, so it's contingent, and if we get it, great. If not,
And
we'll
this will
spend the money.
complete it.
Okay,
Very good.
thanks. Part 4, capital improvements, Article 34, to see if the town will vote to transfer $15,000 from the Operational Stabilization Fund to the Norris School capital budget to fund replacement of the carpeting in the library or take any other action relative thereto. The carpet in the library was cited as being unsafe by the building commissioner, I believe, for rippling and having tears in it, so that's what this is for. Nobody? Article 35, to see if the town will vote to transfer $45,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the Norris School capital budget to fund repair of a boiler at the Norris School or take any other action thereof. That's because one of their two boilers went down and they had to go and get it replaced. I think 11 or 12 sections had to be replaced and controls had to be reworked. And that's in the process now, if it's not already done, because of the heating season. So no questions. Article 36, to see if the town will vote to transfer $35,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the Fire Department building account for the purchase and installation of a modular trailer unit as sleeping quarters for fire personnel or take any other action relative thereto. Now, we've talked about this in the past. Is this a requirement or is this to help us with our second and third shift as a thing we feel is necessary?
As I understand, it's to help us fill a second, third shift because we now have firefighters sleeping in recliners.
Okay. So there's no statute, it's a safety comfort issue.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike?
Does the 35,000 include utility hookup?
My understanding is it's only electricity, and yes, it does, and it also includes building, for lack of a better way, a little dormer to the trailer to the building so that they can walk directly into it.
So the sanitation end is what's existing in the fire department.
We're not changing
That was
anything.
my next question, is there, so the reoccurring costs for this would be electricity and HVAC filter maintenance and repair,
It'd be
right?
electricity, and that would be something that the fire chief would have to explain, because I don't know.
Okay.
He said it would be minimal, but I don't know if he knows that.
So it's
I would
it's
suspect to be,
It's gonna be pretty,
it's all insulated and all the rest of that, so,
so it's a rolling bunkhouse, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You really want to call it that?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Well, for 35,000, it better be a big bunkhouse.
It's a large, 2 rooms.
My next question,
yeah, the pricing, did we get an actual price on that, or is this estimated?
Those were quotes he got. I don't have them with me, but those are quotes.
so is this, and I'm going along the same lines, those are the quotes, I just want to make sure that the 35, if that's what is voted on, covers the cost to purchase. Is there 3 quotes? I mean, it's under the 50,000 mark, but it's always good to get 3 when you're within that window. So I just want to make sure 35
It's my
is the
understanding,
number.
Waiver.
my understanding of the 35 is it puts the thing in place and wires it in place.
Okay. Okay.
I think when the time comes, we need to get the pricing quotes and everything.
Obviously, Mike, these were discussed weeks ago, and I don't have any paperwork with me.
Okay. So Article 37, see if the town will vote to transfer $62,000 from the capital stabilization fund to the highway department account for the purchase of a large lawnmower or take any other action thereof. $62,000, it's going to be a large mower.
This is to replace the mower we have.
Yeah, this is a riding, full swing down,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, you put the wings down, get up
Yep.
to about 70 miles an hour, and as long as you got a little headwind, you're fine.
So my question would be, because I don't have any information, if I look at my fixed asset schedule, the one the auditors did, in conjunction with what our insurance has, the last time we purchased this kind of mower was in 2005. Okay, so it's not 18 years old, it's only 12 years old. And if you use it only part of the year, shouldn't you still have some life left to it? And have we, because I haven't seen any, large bills to actually fix this machine? Or are we paying tens of thousands of dollars a year to fix it? And where are we, I don't see those bills coming across my desk. Are we paying our mechanic, $10,000 a year is it really breaking down that much where we need to buy a new one right now, is my question.
It's a good question, but I don't have an answer to that. And I also wonder if we looked in leasing for this type of equipment.
Well, that's now operating instead of capital. Well, I guess you could do a capital lease.
But I guess, like I said, unless the insurance and the auditors are wrong on when we purchased this last, we paid $66,000 back in 2005. It's only 12 years old, and really, it's only 6 years old because you only use it half the time anyway. I mean, maybe that's looking at it incorrectly, but I'm just,
Be able to go back to the highway super?
I'm just ask.
We just had a brief discussion of it the other day, and he said that his current mower, the one that he currently uses, is breaking down regularly. Part of the reason why he has been behind schedule in getting mower maintenance done last summer, so. But, there's some questions here to be asked. We haven't really delved into that at this point. We just put this forward because he's made the request.
Because I look at our street sweeper we bought in 1999. We've had to repair that $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a couple years in a row. Have we done that? I haven't seen that with this vehicle, but maybe they're having their mechanic fix it. I don't know that because that's not listed.
We should probably get more information. We can
so-
always pass over this at town meeting if we decide we don't want to approve it, correct, Mr. Moderator?
I didn't hear half.
Oh, I was going to say, we can leave it in and get more information, and if we want to pass over at a town meeting, okay.
Yeah, my question is more towards you, Vicki. I didn't know if we carried the capital on the books for a number of years and if there was going to be a write-off on the books with the capital from the old mower. Or do you just write it off in the one shot?
It just gets written off in one.
Okay, I didn't know if there was an amortization, because that's another thing we gotta look at. If there's still stuff on the books from an amortization schedule, you're gonna have to take a write-off and get rid of that old asset. And then my other question would be, that asset's gotta be worth something. I'll take it up at my place.
Yeah.
But
it should go up for a
what's the
public
plan?
auction.
Yeah, what's the plan to sell it, and is that taken into consideration?
Yeah, so the auditors go through the fixed asset schedule every year. They change all the valuations and add any new items based on what we purchased those items for.
Yeah,
How
so
about if we-
should look at,
how about if we-
I have the schedule.
Okay.
How about if we leave it in, and Bob, can you get us some answers to those questions?
Yes,
Dr. Randall?
there's a number of, there are a number of issues here that haven't been explored. I've lost a couple of weeks here, so we're really running behind.
So,
But prior to town meeting, certainly in early January, there's time to ask a lot of questions and go into town meeting with a lot of answers.
and we can bring it to our select board meeting so we can discuss it.
Right, plus,
Okay, so let's, do you have a
Hi,
question?
sorry,
on
Heather
this?
Pellegrini, 76 Crooked Ledge Road. In general, as I look at these requests for capital, how do they fall in line with our capital plan? Do we have a capital spending plan? Or is it, there's money in the bucket, someone put dibs in for something they'd like to have for the department, so we spend it? Do we have a capital plan? Let's start with that.
The capital committee, who's on it?
Charlie.
Okay,
We've been discussing having a plan. The problem was, if you noticed in the last, let's say, 3 to 6 months, we had 2 members of the capital committee that we had to basically move to replace. So there was only a minimal screw on here for the last couple of years. We still have, in my mind, 1 seat open, and would really like to get a full committee going so we can get into all that, because it needs to be done.
I'd like to offer my name in the hat for that appointment. Okay, once that passes. Okay, so with these requests, then, I don't know what the balance is. So my question is, are we looking to spend everything we have available in capital with these requests?
absolutely not. Matter of fact, the articles before were adding to capital stabilization, I believe, right?
That's my concern, is that, we're in this habit of, we've got money in the bucket, we'd like to have this piece of equipment or this machine for that department, let's spend
We
it.
originally held about $45,000, $50,000 aside in the capital, and then the school came up with.
And that's my point, Charlie, is these things, that problem is not exclusive to the North School. What happens if something happens in this building that requires a major outlay of capital, and we don't have it because we got a brand-new mower, or we got a brand-new trailer?
Last year, we put 40,000 aside, and next thing we had was a cruiser we had to replace.
Right.
Every year, historically, the capital committee would try to keep some money aside, and then at the last gun is fired, something comes up that we didn't plan on.
Okay, yeah.
You're
That's
right.
why I think a
We should-
plan going forward, 5, 10, even 20-year replacement for vehicles and machinery and equipment,
It's needed.
it should be looked
It's
at.
needed.
that way.
There's no
Yep.
argument.
Okay, thank you very much.
So after, if these articles were to pass at town meeting, there'd be $15,783.02 left
After transfer?
after these 3, correct,
And what,
in capital. And 9,500 of it was left over from last year.
We have 9,500 in there before we transfer the 148?
Yes.
Boiling down to nothing, yeah.
The capital committee was trying to keep 25% of the money was transferred
Yeah.
over, but every time we went and did that, we got nailed.
Does anybody up here have any issues with this article?
which one?
37?
37,
Well, like you said, Bob, get more information, and we could always pass
So
over.
leave it as a placeholder once we get more information on this, and Article 36?
I mean, I don't think we invited everybody here to speak to their articles, so I'd prefer to be able to get more information on it and leave it so that there's at least a placeholder.
When we're done with these things.
Okay,
I'll do the
Article...
balances of everything after you're done.
Sure, thanks. Article 38, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board, acting by and through the Water Commission, to acquire by purchase, gift, eminent domain, or otherwise, on such terms and conditions as the Select Board shall determine, a permanent easement containing 40,000 square feet, more or less, on a parcel of land located in Southampton and Easthampton, commonly known as 10 College Highway, being Assessor's Map 14, Lot 2 in Southampton, and Assessor's Map 164, Lot 11 in Easthampton, Said easement as approximately shown on a sketch plan as may be amended on file with the town clerk for the purpose of siting, construction, operating, and maintaining a water pump station and appurtenance related thereto, as well as access rights to said easement, said property to be acquired for water supply protection or water distribution purposes pursuant to General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 39, 41, and 15B, and further to authorize the Select Board to enter into all agreements and take all related actions necessary or appropriate to carry out said acquisition and other acts authorized herein upon such terms and conditions as the Select Board may deem appropriate or take any other action relative thereto.
Yeah.
John, one quick question in relation to this. So this is an article from the Water Commission asking the Select Board to do something for the Water Commission. I'm assuming whatever the Select Board does or the town does on the Water Commission's on behalf will have some sort of cost associated. Is there a reassurance that the Select Board or the town administrator budget or the general town budget will not be handling that cost and that we will be reimbursed through the Water Commission somehow?
We'll get charged directly to the water.
Perfect. Thank you.
And last but not least, Part 6, bonded debt. Article 39.
Allow the chair not to have to read the entire article. This is an article that's been in place for 20-something years.
Just renewing it.
Standard application for people to have their septic system repaired when they have a financial concern.
Second that motion.
Do you want some more explanation or no?
I know all about this stuff, so.
All in favor? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Unanimous. Go ahead, Vicki. You
No,
wanna say-
I was gonna,
Oh,
this
no.
was just allowing the Select Board and the town to be able to borrow this money, because we've borrowed two $200,000 increments, which we pay back. We transfer the money to the general fund to pay that back from people who we've loaned that money to at 5% in order to give them new septic systems in there, and we're
It's
down.
our loan that we.
Yeah, and
just-
we're down to the last $50,000 that we drew down from those last two $200,000 loans that we had from the water, it's the Clean Water Air Trust
Their
now.
refunds.
We keep the 5%.
We keep the interest that we can use for administrative costs, or we could potentially loan out again if we gain enough interest in there.
We're not paying over 5 in interest for them, are we?
They're paying us.
They're paying us.
Oh, okay.
The townspeople are paying the town 5%. It was either 2% or 5%. The town voted,
The money, right?
we already borrowed the money back in
It just keeps
2006.
recirculating.
But are we paying more than 5%
Paying no
interest?
interest.
We're paying nothing. We own the money or, you know.
But, yeah.
I want to see us paying 7% and then charging 5%.
Oh, let's go 8. What the hell?
Hey, I gotta ask the question.
Okay.
So, as I stated before, after the furnace, the temporary housing for the fire, and if we take the lawnmower out of capital, we'll end up with $15,783.
Can you just repeat that number again, please?
I can send you the spreadsheet, but $15,783 and some change. And whatever interest we may gain from whatever money is left in there for the rest of the year will also get accrued in there.
But you said if we remove the lawnmower?
No, if we pass it, if we
pass
if
over?
we appropriate the lawnmower, the fire department, housing, and the school furnace, there's $15,783 left in capital.
Which is
So if all the capital expenses are approved, that will be left?
Yes,
That includes the money we're going to put into it.
Do you happen to know what
Yeah.
our operational?
I'm getting to it right now, sir. I got it all. I like to come prepared. So operating, if we take the library carpet out, there'll be, and we transfer the $127,000 and some change, we end up with $371,257.
One more time?
371,257.
In operating, okay.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
How long has it been since we've had that amount of money in that account?
Never? I don't
Well, I
remember.
mean, since we've been putting money in, we've been slowly accumulating. You know, we put in 100 and, well, so this year free cash was 423,000. Last year was 490,000. The year before was like 500,000. So whatever that 30% is. But we've spent, like last year, we took the cruiser out of there, and we took the chipper out of there.
Out of operating?
Out of operating, correct. Which you can use for any lawful purpose per state statute, so.
Now, if the carpet is $15,000, why wasn't that out of capital?
It was originally.
The 15,000 for the
It says 15,783 is left.
Oh, the 15.
With the boiler?
But what happened was the boiler issue
I
came
thought you were talking about the land.
So the committee was like, well, wait a minute, let's keep a little bit of money in capital.
Okay.
Just in case.
Okay. But it could have been either.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
it would made capital $700.
I thought you were, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if we take all these articles out of free cash and appropriate them, if they pass at town meeting, there's $3,424 remaining. Out of the $105,000 that, after we take operating OPEB and capital, that's what's left that we're allowed to spend on one-time purchases.
3424?
342471. So that's where we're at.
It sounds like we don't have much from free cash, but yet the OPEB, the capital, and the operating, we're putting 300-something thousand of that into those accounts.
But, so, when I was doing the tax recap for this year, there's a page that's on there that is other funding sources. So I have to list down every single appropriation above and beyond the budget that we appropriated at any town meetings. And that would include any money we transferred to capital, OPEB, and operating. But it also includes any money we transferred out of there and any money we transferred out of free cash. And you're talking almost $1 million.
Oh, easily, yeah.
So, just for what it's worth, it's a lot of money.
Okay, so we need a motion here to accept these.
I make a motion to submit the town warrant as modified.
Okay, do we want to go over what we're modifying, or just?
I'll second it.
Okay, okay, I've got them all, if we need it, you got them all too?
Yep.
Okay, so any other conversation? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
If you'll sign that paper, I've made the changes, and we will get this warrant posted early next week.
Yes, sir.
This has been the most thorough vetting of articles outside of the budget of any town meeting, special or annual, that I've witnessed in 12 years. So we're looking at 36 meetings. This is very good. Congratulations to everybody.
Progress is good, yeah.
January the 4th, here, is going to be the town moderator special town meeting information session, although that's how it's posted. In reality, it's the Vicky Morrow and Virginia Ahart hour.
What time?
It's 7 o'clock, and it generally goes to 8. Who knows, it may go to 8:30 January 4th. It gives everyone an opportunity, televised live, to, for those who don't have computers or those who, aren't they're at the bonfire tonight for the solstice at Arcadia, get an opportunity, and by that time, we may have some more facts.
Great,
Thank
thanks.
you. It's nice to have someone there, but no one's needed to be there, but it's always good company to have someone there, and you've been there, so that's been great.
Any other questions or comments before we wrap up? That's what I'm asking. Yes. Even though he sits over there, it's tough.
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. I'm glad that the finance is still here and that community preservation representative is here. Our town, when we pay taxes on our property and everything, am I correct that we have a percentage from this town that goes into the CPC money every year? 3%.
Well,
First of all, the first 100,000 of your property is taken off. Secondly, it's 3% surcharge on your taxes. If your tax bill is, let's say,
you may want to come a little closer so people at home can hear you.
if you want to say, I wish I had my chart here. If your tax bill, say, on your property above the first 100,000, let's say your property, you're going to pay not all of your taxes, not on all of your taxes, but on the part above. Let's say that's each tax bill is $400. You're paying 3% on the $400 each tax.
$12?
So it's how much?
$12?
Well, whose tax bill's 400?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say next, yeah.
No.
So if your
not
tax
your
bill is
total-
$1,000,
Not your total tax.
I understand.
And I'm taking your quarter. If you look on your tax bill, there's a little thing over there that says your CPA, and it is the Community Preservation Act. You'll find that there. And I found that actually, if I stay out of Starbucks when I go by, I could have enough money each quarter to easily more than pay that little extra.
Okay.
And then when you look at, what we've done with that, we do get matching funds from the state.
what percentage was it this year? They used to,
$96,919.
The percentage was down.
wasn't it like in the 60s?
Do you know the actual amount?
I don't, because they're still working on that.
So safe to say it's at least a $300,000 year.
So last year was $257,000, and we got $110,000 in matching, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, and it keeps
400.
going down, but don't forget the voters of Southampton voted for it.
Well,
It's going down because the entire pool, there's more people gaining at that
Yeah.
pool, and there's less in that pool.
We used to get 100% matched, then it's gone down every year.
Since I've been here, we started at 153,000, and now we're at 96.
yeah,
Over like, whatever, 6 years.
this is the lowest year that we have been, and it's 70, I think, something. We went in at 3%, and that made us stay in the pool longer when they begin to distribute the money. They have different rounds, and we stay in till the last round because we went in at the 3%. The other thing that, yes, we've had some big cities come in, Boston's in, Holyoke, Springfield, have all hopped in, but first of all, they've only hopped in at 1.5%, so they won't be in the pool as long. But secondly, when the money comes from the state, comes from a fee on every deed that is transferred in this state. Every single deed. That has been at $20 since the very beginning of community preservation. That is going up. The state has also been putting money in because they believe in this. So if they've had a surplus, well, they didn't this year. So we didn't, no one got the benefit of the surplus. We don't know what next year will bring, but they have also, the legislature has voted to ensure that there will be something every year put in. And when you begin to get Boston and Springfield and some of the ones with a lot of reps, that's going to be much more guaranteed when it was just, rather than when we were just the little towns out in the countryside. But they believe in this very much, so they want to support this.
Great, thank you. Did that answer your question, Tammy?
No. So I want to find out what would have to be the policy for 1 year to not have that money go to CPC and go to some of the other funds that we need.
The CPA.
The CPA, sorry.
No, the CPA is the act, the CPC is the committee. I don't think we can do anything, that's a law.
Drop the tax and put it on an
Yeah, I don't,
No,
but the
no.
CPA is a law that you can't, yeah.
It takes a good year and a half to get out. You get out the same way you came in.
By a vote, right?
First of all, the town meeting has to vote to put it on a ballot. Then the town election, there has to be a town election to back that up, and it still has a waiting period. So you just can't stop it and start it again. If you come out, you're out.
So what if we wanted to lower it and do exactly what Dan said, put another percentage to something else in town that needs the help
I
for
don't,
the
I don't
year?
think you can take a percentage. I mean, we could get out of it.
So once you're in a 3, you're in 3 forever.
No,
No,
no.
but I
You
mean,
can-
that 3% is on top of your taxes. So if we lowered it to 2%, that 1% can't go back to the town.
Yeah, but you can
It's not there.
articulate it to the town.
To-
We took
to
some money
something.
here, saved you guys some money, to put it here so we can use it.
So raise your taxes over
What
here
we
and
take in
lower it
property
over here?
taxes is controlled by Prop 2.5.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
taxing at 2.5% and you drop the CPC down to 1%, you can't take those monies and put them over here because you've got the lid on property taxes.
Maybe.
That's it. You give a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
guys, we're talking all over the place here. Okay,
That has come up before.
yeah,
And, well,
yeah. Well, we don't want to go into it
we
again,
don't,
Virginia, yeah.
I don't think you want to start messing around with that. First of all, it would take a couple years to change. If you even drop it, then, say you dropped it from the 3 to 1.5, then you're not getting as much back from the state. You're not putting in as much, but you're not getting as much back from the state either.
I mean, that would have to be
And
a
it would be
ground
even
roots,
lower.
ground roots kind of thing out here. I don't think there's anybody up here as, anybody have any interest in? No? No. Okay, yeah.
One point, because the Finance Committee was referenced in the question. So during last year's budget cycle, we met with the finance team. It was a topic of discussion, doing something along those lines, mainly because there's close to $1 million in stagnant funds in this group that we can't just use to improve the town and improve the buildings as needed, you know?
We're using it within the confines of, doing the roof, doing whatever, doing the doors.
Correct,
Yeah.
but the roof is not the need of
Well,
the town at the moment. It's a small need, maybe, but it's not the
It's an
dire
opinion,
need.
it's an opinion, I guess. And, we can't use money for anything else. It's being used within the law.
Then we should look to put in less, or find a way to utilize those funds for some of the buildings in town that
Well,
really need it.
Just the town voted in favor of it. So I think it's all opinion as far as what value any of these things have. I mean, right now,
Well, it is an opinion, but if we just started with the opinion and we bring it up for conversation, then other people can be aware of it, right? That's where opinions and ideas and those things start, right? Because people ask the question and you bring it up. We can stump it down and say, people voted for it 10 years ago, we shouldn't look at it ever again, but
We're out of money. We gotta
that's lack of
Like,
progress.
we can't, if we abolish the program, we take the 2.5% every year. We can't utilize those funds because we're already taking 2.5%.
Understand, but you've got an argument, like we talked about. Instead of increasing what someone's out of their pocket for taxes, you neutralize and shift it from one bucket to another through different.
But my guess is they're not going to vote for the 2.5 override, and they'll take the $30 a year and put it in their pocket,
Yeah.
which,
I have never had anyone say to me that they're unhappy with what has been done in this town with community preservation. And when yes, there's money,
Can't afford books and paper.
but I mean,
but you
okay,
can't use it for
we
that.
can't discuss the CPA that much. There's no, I think, appetite for up here at least to change this, so that would have to be something out
Yeah,
there.
I just
So-
want to point out that, yes, there's quite a bit of money in that. Part of it is in affordable housing, and if anyone comes up with an idea of what we can do about housing,
Yep, we're working on it.
I'd love to hear it.
Affordable housing, all open for
Okay, well, we can't get into that now, so I'm
But the Greenway
Yep.
has, we might be committed to quite a bit on the Greenway because we've made a commitment to
Right.
that.
Okay, so I guess that's it for the public time. We have a motion to adjourn?
Second,
Any questions, or all in favor?
Merry Christmas.
Thank you all for coming and participating. How are you? Good. It's a long meeting, Ed.